one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any questions on the bills?
That's all, no problem.
Everybody's good? Okay. I have one question, Dominic answered it for me, so all is well. Can I have a motion that the bills be paid in the following amounts as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Correspondence. There's a letter from Ned Lang to the planning board chairman regarding the retaining the attorney that I had read at the last meeting that we had, so I just wanted to add that on there so that people that missed that meeting, they'd be aware of that. Kathy Michelle regarding the pending sale of the Narrowsburg School Building. New York State DEC regarding the annual compliance inspection of the Narrowsburg wastewater treatment plant. The overall rating for the facility was satisfactory. I got all good marks. New York State Department of Ag and Markets, the Deer Park Humane Society inspection, which actually failed. So, the state's inspection. So, I talked to Gary and Dave and whatnot today. We're working on getting that going as fast as we can so that we can bring ourselves into compliance. New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, the 2014 equalization rate status is 54.75.
Excuse me, Ken, did that change at all, Ken?
Yeah, 1%.
I'm sorry?
It dropped 1%.
1%.
Thanks.
Again, the announcements, watch for the energy saving tips provided by our wonderful energy committee. Division reports, highway and water and sewer both could not attend tonight. Building department, Gary.
In the month of July 2014, between 9 construction inspections, issued 1 certificate of occupancy and 8 certificates of compliance, issued 13 building permits, including 1 for a new home, 1 for a deck, 1 demolition permit, 2 electrical permits, 5 roof replacement permits, 1 sign permit, and 1 well permit. We did 4 municipal searches, and declared 1 building is unsafe. 1 violation was issued, and the money we collected for July was $1,351.98.
Any questions for Gary?
Gary, how'd you make out with a replacement double that drives it that long?
It's been a little difficult dealing with this company. It's a management company that handles it. I sent them a couple of emails already. After the first one, I don't know if it was coincidental or not, they did cut part of the grass. I tried to contact them again. They have a whole email set up on their website to issue complaints and such. And they tell me there is no, that address doesn't exist at this point. So
I understand.
it's not easy.
No. Okay, thank you for your effort.
I'm gonna keep at it though.
Thank you, Gary. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jane. I forget to do these. Take these down. Let's see. Assessor, Ken.
During the month of July, the final roll was published in the beginning. Thanks to Councilman Ritter, it was put up on the website promptly. The ensuing annual reports from the final roll were completed, mailed to New York State and Sullivan County. I've recently removed some exemptions of people who were deceased since March 1st and their estates notified. The state also has sent monthly updates of the star removal, but nothing seems to change. They did put a couple back on, and that's about it on them. We just had a draft of deeds recently of sales, and the county tax sale parcels, some of them have come through. Got them all updated on the roll before it went for the school taxes so that the new property owners will receive their bill instead of the county getting and having to forward it. We have received through August 11th, last Monday, 3 small claims action. Only one of these was presented before July 31st and properly given to the town clerk. The other two have been received in regular mail during August and appear to be invalid as they were not filed on a timely basis. I've sent letters informing the affected parties that the cases will not be heard. The one case timely filed will be heard here on August 22nd. If contacted by any other hearing officers for the two late cases, I'll be refusing to set their hearings. That's it.
Very good. Any questions for Ken? Thank you. UDC, Susan?
Hi. Okay, the two top items are deadlines for TAG grants, which we've corresponded about, and the deadline for the 2014 is 8/22, and then the deadline for next year is 8/29. So, and just a reminder that there is priority given to digitizing of maps. So I did speak quickly to Ed about the state of our maps,
Okay,
and he's thinking on it.
just a note on the, on this year's grant, I have everything ready to go over, I'll take it over tomorrow, but, we just were waiting for the check to come in, the last check to clear, so that we, so that I could get that.
Oh, that's
And, we've got the, emergency management plan, completed, it's printed, and I had copies to bring to you all, and I forgot to bring them down, so, but yeah.
Wonderful. And actually, our meeting started with an emergency management presentation by Joe Hinkes.
Okay.
And it was really good, and he distributed something that, for me, made me understand exactly how it works, you know, the broad outline of it, and then all the contact people. So our plan probably has all that, and it's great information to have. The Park Service basically wanted to also get across that they are embedded in that process, that they work with everybody. So that's that. Okay, saving historic barns. It's on the agenda, because Tony asked you to put it on there. It's a proposal which makes sense, although I think I would love to know Ken's feelings about it, because it's a tax issue. It allows someone who wishes to fix up, reconstruct, renovate old barns to get a tax abatement, may be the right word. Anyway, you'll look and see, because to me, it's important to know that, but I don't see any downsides to it. The only thing is to pass a local law. It requires the passage of a local law in order for the owner of the property to be able to do it. So later, it will come up on the agenda. The water trail, we talked about this water trail. It's like the scenic byway, except, of course, it's water. It's a federal designation. NPS has apparently started investigating it because it allows for the obtaining of grant monies. The UDC is investigating to see if there's any downside to it, and that will come up before the Worm Committee. However, what it is to me is a tourist designation, which would be extremely helpful to people who have any business that's directly associated with boating on the river, because that's what folks use when they decide where to go to do that. So anyway, keeping track of, see if there's any downside to that. Tomorrow is a visit with Chris Gibson. So some of the staff is going to go, and a couple of members of the board, and they have a list of stuff to talk about. One of which is what's up with that water advisory group that he started, and the other I asked her to include was what's up with the broadband thing that he did. You know, he called together a whole group of people to discuss broadband. So she'll probably get a chance to ask him what's up with that. And
Say that again. We'll get,
Lori and staff and Andy Boyer, they're all going over. It's a small meeting with Chris Gibson to follow up on all the concerns that we have as the UDC. Things that affect valley-wide, not just a specific town, but, you know, and basically to really familiarize him with what we are. You know, it's complicated. So where we fit in the federal government fits, and, you know,
when is it?
that's tomorrow. So it's tomorrow over in Ferndale. And so that's that. Preliminary review. The river management plan is over 20 years old. There's a strong feeling it needs to be updated, and they've hired a consultant to look for inconsistencies to basically lay the groundwork for doing that. And I think that's about it, unless anybody has any other thoughts or questions.
I do have just one quick question. I know Chris Gibson had done a presentation on Lyme disease and whatnot. I wasn't able to attend that, but has the UDC talked about Lyme at all in the area? I know you've talked about like the knotweed and stuff, and we're gonna have that on the agenda probably next month for us to discuss on Lake Erie, but might be something, I don't know if you guys can discuss that and
I can certainly
concerns, and I think it's, you know, we're really widespread in our area right now. It's a big
Yeah.
concern.
And I don't know where the Park Service is about that, because it's certainly, it's something, they're involved in invasive species. I just don't know, you know, they probably have some parameters around what they do. Yes.
Jamie Myers, who's the NPS biologist, gave a
Right.
presentation last year at the Water Use Resource Management. So I'm sure that if we invited
Online?
her,
Did she do it online?
it was also on knotweed mostly.
Yeah, no, knotweed,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah.
a new one too. I forgot, I didn't mention it because it's so visual, but it's called Mile a Minute Weed. And it is a triangular shaped leaf, and the Park Service issued a press release. And I could certainly send it to the board or to Glenn.
Okay.
I think Glenn actually should be on the alert for it, because once it's on the roadsides, it just goes everywhere.
Right.
And it's like kudzu. It just covers everything and kills it.
So you would suggest that they spray it?
To kill it, is that right?
To kill the Mile a Minute weed is not so difficult as knotweed. It's basically pulling it out, or an herbicide, because it produces berries. The birds carry them, so if you can control it before the berries,
Before the berries come.
you know, you can get a grip on it.
Does
So,
it grow a foot a day or something?
foot a day.
Oh my God.
Exactly, a foot a day.
What's that called?
It's called Mile a Minute Weed. And the Park Service, probably if you went to NPS, National Park Service website, they would have that press release right there with the photographs.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, we don't want Mile a Minute Weed. But I will bring up the Lyme disease issue.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Kathy, that's all I'll say on that.
I was just, yeah, the Mile of Wisdom has been around for a while. We have it in the area. It's been around for a number of years, but it's around. It's in
Okay.
town. But I was curious who the consultant was they hired.
Oh, I can just get it for you. I don't know. I'll look and see if it's in this stuff.
What was the fact about it?
Print.
Herbicide, okay, so,
When we were doing
Yeah.
the brush killer, we'd also
yeah,
knock that down.
yeah. Well, if we can mow before it flowers,
Sometimes mowing just spreads it too.
yeah. It shouldn't, if we could, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
It's been around for a while, so
Okay.
apparently it's not taken over yet.
No.
yeah. But it's something to watch out for, certainly. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Beautification Committee, Star.
Yes. I'm pleased to announce that for the second year in a row, the Sullivan Renaissance Group has awarded Narrowsburg, Town of Tusten, the highest prize in the maintenance project category. $5,000 for the best overall showing of flowers in multiple gardens. In arriving at their decisions, the judges considered all the flowers in the community, with the award being based primarily on what they call the wow factor, which is basically that the floral displays have an abundance of color, texture, and complexity of design, and use flowers so that the presentation, quote, knocks one's socks off, unquote, in the viewing. This year's collaborative effort of the Main Street Merchant Narrowsburg Beautification Group and many community volunteers succeeded in producing the wow factor and securing this second Best Overall Showing of Flowers award. In addition to this award, Juliette Raymond received a $1,000 grant for the facade improvements to her Maison Bergeron building, with her helper, Ray Gould, working at her side tirelessly. The special thanks goes to Sullivan Renaissance's Diana Wiener, Master Gardener Susan Klickus, landscape architect Andrew McIntyre, and many others who donated their time and talents to make this year's beautification project such a success. Improvements of this sort help to promote businesses and attract more people and who are visitors and who want to live here. But the most gratifying part of this project was more and more people, as the project got further and further along, would stop to observe the progress, comment on the flowers, ask about various plants they'd like to put in their gardens, and basically just become generally more engaged and aware of the personal gratification to be obtained by volunteering in a project like this. So we're looking forward to next year's project. God help us, we have to get it in by the end of September. And we're welcoming anyone who would like to join and help us improve our community by working to make it beautiful. Thank you.
Sean Harrington, who lives on Main Street, and Ray Gould, who also lives on Main Street, and Aaron McIntyre, who is a new resident of Narrowsburg, who lives on Irish Hill, and he volunteers his time on the weekends. He lives in Manhattan, and he volunteered to help us out. And Sean is always available to help us with the deck and the watering. And Ray, here he is, Ray. He always there to help me carry my bags of dirt to do things, and he's always willing to help. So it's a real community effort. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Star, did you? I didn't hear the beginning of your report, but just to boost us up even more, does everybody realize that was Showing of Flowers 1 out of the 17? There were 17 others that were competing with us, and more than that, I think we should be proud to know that Sullivan Renaissance has been in existence for 10 years, and in that 10 years, we have won the Showing of Flowers 4 times. Wow.
Multiple other awards
Correct.
for Renaissance.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Narrowsburg has done really well.
They were gorgeous.
Certainly something to be very proud of, and your dedication and hard work for your entire
Plus the
committee.
dollar amount.
It's amazing, and it's, we're truly grateful for your efforts. Any other questions? LDC has not met, I don't believe.
No.
Energy Committee, we don't have anything, they haven't met. We're all good. Old business. Solar energy update, I spoke with Glenn today. He's meeting a Land Tech rep to go over the layout on Friday at the Highway Barn, so that's taken place. We haven't gotten anything else from the financial end of it. They've asked for our financials, we sent that out and haven't heard anything back yet, so we're hoping to hear from that soon. Playground, the wood chips were delivered and spread by our highway crew. We'd like to thank Glenn and the crew for a very nice job. And it was very timely, and they were expedient in getting it out, so appreciate that. We did notice there was some kids down there with four-wheelers. So just a note, if you see anybody down on the flats tearing up the playground, we'd appreciate it if you call the state police or the sheriff's department and alert somebody. So
Or just talk to the kids, because I actually was approached by one mom, and she wasn't aware of it. So just approach the kids or the kids' parents before you get the state police and stuff involved, and then try to work it out at that level, because she was a little bit taken back, and so she took care of it.
So yeah, we've got a lot of money down there though, so we want to see it taken care of for the kids that want to use it.
They are running around the flats quite a bit. They're not supposed to be doing that. I mean, why don't the state police come down and issue a warning? They're on the road with no licenses or nothing, and somebody's going to get hurt badly.
Okay. The $106,000, I didn't put this in here, but we wanted to discuss it. We're trying to repurpose that funding. Jane and I had a conference call with New York State Department of State and Chazen. Where we're at, we got a call back from Larry today. The deck will cost approximately $250,000 on the high side. So that's the most it should cost. So, and most of that is in the construction of what needs to hold everything up. So we're not sure how far we're going to get with the 106. We're going to have another conference call probably next week, and we'll see what the state says.
Well, yeah. If the state gives 106, Of course, we're responsible for another 106.
Correct.
But of that, the demolition should be approximately 5,000. I don't know if beautification is still willing, but I think probably willing to give the golden feather money towards the deck, so that's another 25,000.
Okay.
Which means that the town would be responsible for about 114,000 out of the 250 to replace the deck with a structurally sound deck. I think, Carol, I think we have to know tonight whether the board is willing to agree to that so that we know whether to accept the 106 or not. Because don't we have to know that at this time?
But Jane, you could rebuild that deck that's there. Because we had, remember, there's been a promise to the, not this board, but former boards, that we wouldn't spend any money on the Esplanade project.
That's not the Esplanade project though, Ned. That is replacing a structure that the town has been responsible for years.
I know, but it didn't cost $200,000, $250,000 to build. You could replace pretty much that structure with something close to that for $106,000 is a lot of money, Jane, for a deck. We're talking a
But
deck.
I think that, and you know this better than I do, I think that the footing is going to be so much more structurally sound. And so we won't, and if we build it with, right now, if beautification didn't re-stain that every year, which they did not do this year, and it looks pretty crummy. And we can't rely on volunteers to be doing this every year. We have to take the responsibility.
It's a lot of money, Jane. You're talking over $100,000.
$114,000?
Well, the 250,000, that is a lot.
Well, he did say the
But
high side, but
That's on the high side. We gotta find. Harvey, like I said, find out.
You talking about?
It's on Main Street,
Oh.
the overlook, yep.
Oh, yes. The eagle.
I don't know whether any of that, I don't know what else in the matching we could come up with.
But
That was
we
in
have,
kind.
we have
I'll
almost
see if
like
we put
100
this out, this whole deal. Larry's just for, get an idea, but put it out to bid and see what other people come back as a cost onto it too.
We have about 135,000 of cash without spending any taxpayers' money. We do this, and we also talked about when he was there that night of getting a, actually attaching and drilling, if you will, those pilings down into the steel pilings down into the rock, bringing them back up, and then you just build off of that, and it's a whole lot cheaper. Putting the foundation down there is going to be a terrible, terrible cost, a lot of money.
Well, I guess the only reason I'm pushing right now is because when we did have the conference call, the state,
They're kind of antsy to get an answer.
yes, because it's already how many years out now?
Well,
And they really
yes,
want to know
yeah.
if we are
Plenty.
going to go through with it. They've been kind enough to consider the repurposing to the deck, but we have to say yes to it.
Ned, I think, we've always had the deck. To replace it with something structurally better is a good idea. I think at the point in time, we have to see if we can keep the cost to a minimum.
Yeah.
But I would like to see something that's anchored and it's not floating out there and scaring the hell out of me every time it rains.
But 130,000, 135,000.
I know it's a lot of money, but
But no, I mean, that money is not coming out of
I
our
know.
general fund, you know what I mean?
I
That's a
know.
lot of money to
I know,
build
it's a lot of
a
money.
simple deck.
Would the deck stay the same size?
Slightly bigger, it's almost the same footprint, it's the same, slightly bigger.
Yeah, I think the design brings the sidewalk into it so that it gets a little larger.
Is it tiered down towards the river?
No.
No,
No?
no, no, we
Isn't
couldn't do
part of
that.
the plan with the
No,
river?
it couldn't be.
No?
That was abandoned because of the extra costs and whatnot to get down that far, we couldn't do it. When they did the, test wells, to.
Test drills,
Yeah,
that's good.
to drill down in there and, what was there, there's nothing to build up on. So, it's too deep.
it's a little
Susan?
less than nothing.
old is the current deck?
1980.
1980?
Well, according to the town engineer, he basically said that we're on the bottom line. This was last year, when Wes was there and said that he would say that it was fit for use. So we're running against the clock here on this deal. And nobody wants to take a chance on anything happening because The wood is deteriorating rapidly because one year somebody made a mistake and they painted it and didn't stain it. It retained the moisture and all the wood basically is going real fast. So it's rotting from the inside.
I mean, I haven't looked at the budget as far as this is concerned. We'd have to look at that going forward, but I mean, we certainly could bond the project if we needed to.
That's what I was thinking.
Interest rates are low, so I mean, I don't know if that's something that the board would entertain going
We
forward.
got budget coming up too pretty shortly. We
Yeah.
can factor that right into the budget.
Yeah.
Do it that way.
Yeah.
Hey, Norm, why don't you talk to the guy from that Sullivan Structures, the steel company?
I'll go out I gotta go out and talk to Joe out at Liberty Steel.
I know you have a relationship with him.
Yeah, I have a good relationship with Joe too.
You see what, I mean, he's probably done that before, and he'll give you some idea of what the
Yeah,
cost might be.
I'm gonna spend
Well, we'll
it.
have the plans probably
Give
end
me a
week.
set of the plans
So
and I'll
once we
head
got
out,
the
get
CDs,
Joe's
then we can
opinion.
get more information on
More
that.
knowledge is always good.
I'm thinking to the LDC, this is one of their functions, is to try to raise funds for projects in town like this, try to get grant money and stuff, so if you guys want to have a meeting and discuss that and try to get some grant monies available that wouldn't be matching.
I don't write grants, but maybe Andrea might be interested in that. And Jane, are you hip to that?
Well, I,
I know you have a lot on your plate, I'm just asking.
no, I don't mind trying to do it if I knew where to go. I don't necessarily
Right.
know where to go. But right now, I mean, I think the concern is we've already been approved for 106,000. If this board, our board, doesn't agree to spend some money, then down the line, as Norm says, it's going to have to be replaced, and we won't have the
We'll have the
106.
exactly.
So we need to get
even if,
some bids
you
out.
know what, even if it's 114, and you think that's high, if you don't have the 106, it's gonna get very high very quickly.
Jane, we're on the same page here. The only issue that I have is that we've never gone out to bid, so we really don't know how deep the water is. And really what his design is. I haven't seen the new design. He came and he made that crazy design
Right.
with his $500,000. And then we were talking that night, and I proposed this pinning the steel to the rocks, and he said, good, let's try that. So we really don't know how deep the water is right now, so we need to have that information before we can move forward.
We'll have that
Well,
at
he
week.
is saying, though, that at the highest it'd be 250. What everybody's saying here is that sounds too high, and so maybe we can get a bid that's lower. So the highest right now, it appears, would be 114. I'm just worried that the state is going to lose their patience.
Right.
And so that's why, if this board agrees that we will agree to pay for the deck construction beyond the 106, then we can tell the state, yes, thank you very much.
But how do you know what that number is, Jane? How do you
We
do
don't,
that?
except that we've gotten a professional estimate for 250, which
Right.
he's saying is high.
Right.
So we know if we trust the professional estimate, it's not gonna be more than 114.
Another question here, Carol, could we take a copy of those plans and give them to Wes and let him give us an idea what he thinks it would cost to?
You talk loud.
Norm,
Okay.
could you just speak up a little,
Okay,
please?
we're talking about taking those plans to our engineer and having him give us an estimate too on what he thinks it would cost. That's what I'm saying. I
You
want
need
to get as
some
much
estimates.
numbers as I
We need
can, as
information,
quickly as I
Jane.
can.
Yeah, I mean, this has gone through their structural engineer, so
Let's
that's
run
who's
through
giving
ours.
it, running the
Yeah.
numbers. Hold on one second, okay? I tend to agree with Jane. I don't want to lose this 106. I know what you're saying about replacing the current deck with something similar. My feeling is we might be able to do that, but if we don't take the 106, we could have, if we have the 106, we can do this project, and it probably costs the same as if we didn't have the 106 and built the same as what we have now.
Well, I'm not
That's,
saying
so we'll
not
have
to,
a better product.
yeah, I'm not saying not to take 106, but we have no idea how deep the water is. We have one gentleman who approached us last time with a $500,000 estimate. Now it's 250,000. But we really don't have any real, so Norm's gonna take a set of plans out to Liberty Ironworks. That's a great start. Mr. Illing can then also give us an idea, and then at the next board meeting, we have more information.
Yes.
And we could even put it out to bid. I mean, you're talking, it's been a year, right?
Yeah, we're at the end of where he feels safe with the deck.
But I mean, just to say, okay, we'll go up to 250,000.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to put that out for referendum.
Well, no. We can resolve tonight to accept the 106 with the commitment that we are committing to up to 250, up to our share of up to 250, our matching. So,
That's a lot of money. And our general fund's down to what, Carol, 250? What is it? I don't have that information.
From this month's
Right.
bills?
What's the alternative, Ned?
Well, you know, I'm in business, and so I would never just say, okay, to go to my banker and say, listen, I need a loan for $250,000, when I don't really know the cost of the project. I wouldn't do that. I would first, you know, do your homework and get some estimates and
We're
understand.
not disagreeing with that.
Right.
We're just simply saying, can we have the approval to get the 106? Which means that we want the approval, I'm seeking
To
approval
commit.
of the board that you're committed to pay for the
total project
the
up to
total project.
But that means that
$250,000.
we could be in the hole for another $140,000 on top of that.
Well,
Yeah, yes,
Yes,
yes it does.
it does. All right, hold on. Tony, you had your hand up.
I just
and
have
then
a
Joan.
question, since I haven't seen the original specs. What is the surface of the deck gonna be? What kind of material?
Now it'll be stamped concrete to look like bluestone. It originally was bluestone, and that was the whole project. The whole front of it, facing the
see.
river, was going to be bluestone faced and whatnot.
So it's
Now
radically different
because
from
of-
what it looks like now, because it's wood now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was
But
gonna-
because of the cost, we couldn't do that. We couldn't use the bluestone, which means we're not going to be able to
Even
use
though
the
I have a
in-kind
quarry and I
bluestone.
can give you the bluestone?
Right.
No, I'm serious.
If we could put that on top, if it's structurally sound enough to do that, that's an option. If it's not, one of the options, I think this is why he went with this stamped concrete. One was to bring down the cost, and I think the other was because of the weight.
yeah.
Well, what about Trex, which is a
Composite.
very durable, looks like wood, indestructible, 50-year rated, it's cheaper than cement, lighter than cement, and it requires no maintenance.
And it costs a whole lot less.
But it's porous
Well,
also.
That's not the point, Ned, it's about function. The thing of it is that you've got the money, would have been nice for bluestone, but I think it's, you know, it's really heavy duty. But Trex may be, or something like Trex, may be a viable option because it's winter up here. Anybody who has a deck will tell you, you know, 2 years and you're back at, you know, fixing it. This would be a wise use, and it's also a product that's very sound ecologically. So it's, and you can get it in all kinds of colors. Something to consider.
Right, and this is why we also need to, you know, look at those. We haven't even seen the new plans yet. You know, Jane, we haven't even seen the new plans.
Jane, when do you need to tell
Joan?
us?
Well, it is, we don't have a specific, well, we do have a date. 2.5 weeks ago, they asked to hear from us in 2 weeks. We have not, I have not.
Right.
Yeah, so, because Chazen didn't give us the estimate. Today, I called, Carol spoke, and I spoke with them, and they called back with that $250,000 number. But I'm just concerned that we're not looking good on the state level when we don't get back to them in a timely fashion. We have this 106. I just have the concern.
Joan?
I just get another estimate. I mean, I definitely agree with that, see if we can get it cheaper. Ledges in Hawley, the silk mill, they have decks right on their waterfall. I mean, you can research that, call them and see who they use to put their deck in, because that was done very well. And they use and they have Trex. Actually, they do have Trex on their deck. I mean, it's not aesthetically as nice as the bluestone, but you know, if we have to cut corners, I mean, it's not a bad way to go.
Right.
I think the biggest problem is money-wise is, it's not
Speak
so
up,
much what we're,
please.
it's not so much the money-wise is what we're gonna put underneath it to hold it in place.
Yes.
The
Right.
sinking, the
Right.
pilings and everything else, that's where the real money is gonna go.
Right.
Trex are a lot lighter than cement.
But still, he still wants that anchored
Yeah.
into the steel bedrock, and that's gonna cost money.
Yeah.
So how about if we,
Hold on, Iris was next, and then
My
Susan.
thought
and then
is
we're
that
done.
there is concern for the additional money to match the 106. The reality is, if we just Band-Aid it, we still have a structure and a foundation that is not strong. And we all know that we have to have a strong foundation for anything, whether it's life or a deck. That being said, if we need to have the additional money, perhaps some kind of funding even a bond that could be done so that it's not like we're going to a bank and looking for $106,000, $112,000. There are other options that we could do because this is a situation not only aesthetic, but is a safety situation. And so I think that we can explore other things for the matching money.
Okay, the only thing that it seems to me is the state wants to hear from us. It seems like we have now got the plans, which would allow you all to make a motion to put that out to bid. And if you made that motion, would that satisfy the state in terms of, we are doing something? We're just
No.
waiting for the bids to come
For us to
in.
accept the 106, we have to commit to those matching funds to complete the project.
So it's not about progress?
No.
Overall?
And if we can reject the 106, and if we do that, we'd still be eligible for future CFA grants, and we have some reservations about the viability of any of our grants, making it, because it's a larger pool now, et cetera. So if we take the 106 and we don't finish the project, we will likely not get another CFA grant.
Do we have to spend the full 106 on our own?
Yes.
We have to match it?
We have to match it.
Exactly. So
Yes.
We don't have to match
Not
it
to
in
match it,
dollars,
right.
we can match it in kind
In
as
kind,
well.
right. So if Tony's offer of the bluestone, if it's structurally sound enough to support the weight of the bluestone, because that would be an in-kind service, that may be something that we could use to offset our costs. So, you know.
It's $87.50 a piece, by the way, so.
Carol,
Figure it out.
let's hear from Ed.
Ed?
Just a point of interest, this was given to me when we got the original grant. If we turn this 106 down, we're on the bottom of the list forever.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
she said, I
Carol
asked them
asked
that.
that question.
I did ask that question.
They won't tell you
They
that,
won't
but I'm
say
telling you, in
They
Albany,
say,
once
if
you
we
turn
turn
one
it
down, they don't
down,
want to talk to you anymore.
Because, and the only reason we're turning it down is not because we're just turning it down because, well, gee, we thought about it, we really don't have the money for the project, we really don't want to go through with it. We're turning it down for a legal reason because New York State and PennDOT won't allow us under that bridge to do that part of the project which it was written for. So it's something that's out of our control is the reason why we would turn it down. She says, so because of that reason, it wouldn't look bad for you. She says, we wouldn't be able to hold that against you. However, if you took the 106 and did complete the project, then we would be on the bottom of the list for a very long time. Sean and Star and
It seems like Sullivan and Renaissance too is waiting for a response on where we should spend that 25 from the Golden
yes.
Feather, because
Yes.
we've already moved that around a couple of times.
right,
Yes.
And right now, they think that we're gonna do with the debt.
right.
So that actually, makes it 141 that we have towards
Right.
it with the
Yeah.
states. And if we get an estimate for 2, then we really, we still need to come up with the 106, but, maybe we even make a little money or can use it for maintenance or something on it. I mean, and I think that Norm's idea about putting it out for bid pretty quickly, because I know I had a conversation with Clark about fixing that too. He's like, he has an idea that seems a lot more reasonable than what we've heard the plans are. So I think putting it out for bid is a good idea.
Couldn't you resolve the problem, as Jane brought up, and you were talking about, you have to make a commitment on this thing by making a resolution tonight that the board is going to put this project out to bid ASAP, and then go back to the state and say, yes, we're moving on this, but we have to wait for these bids to come in to get the price.
Too late.
No?
Can you say it won't exceed 200,000 instead of 250, just to appease everyone?
Well,
Like,
yeah, well, exceed the 250, we could say that.
yeah, like the job would not exceed 200 or something.
Well,
Yeah,
212.
250. Well, we can't exceed
212.
It won't exceed 250, and then this way you.
212
Yeah.
for the 106 they're gonna give us and that we have to match.
Tony, real quick, and then we'll move on.
We are nickel and diming ourselves against the catastrophe. If this thing is rated for 35 years, did you say, and it's 36 years or whatever, what is the question? What is the problem here? I mean, it's the most important part of central town. Excuse me, folks, your job is to protect us. Can you just freaking vote on it already and let's get the money
Yeah,
going?
we don't wanna
Because
get sued.
What's the lawsuit worth? What's the lawsuit worth? Who's gonna explain to somebody when somebody gets hurt? Enough already. Let's get this
Yeah, we don't
done.
wanna get
Listen,
sued.
if the deck's in that bad shape, you just close the deck off and tell us.
Okay.
Oh, give that a break.
I move that we accept the grant for $106,000 from the state with the understanding that we are responsible, I don't know what I'm saying.
That we're gonna commit to the.
That we'll commit to match that.
Match that
And complete the construction
of the project
of the-
up to $250,000.
Well, don't even leave the
Right?
250.
Well, yeah, to complete the project.
To complete the project. You wanna read that back? In the big English?
Tell him to send us the 106,000 and we'll work it out.
Wish it worked like that. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Norm, second. All in favor?
Discussion, Carl, discussion.
We already had discussion.
Just had the discussion.
After you need
Okay,
discussion.
Ned, go ahead.
All right, so now we're actually telling our constituency throughout Tusten that we are going to spend another $144,000, possibly.
106.
Excuse me. $144,000 to match that $250,000 grant that we're liable for. Now, we can do it in in-kind services. But if we can't find enough in-kind services, that's a lot of in-kind services. Where are we coming up with the money?
Fundraising, bonding,
Golden feather, in kind.
Or fundraise for catastrophe, you got your choice, you know?
so, any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 10, we don't need to discuss now. TAP grant update.
No, we're still waiting till October.
Okay.
You just committed.
I just keep leaving it on there because, just in case something comes up.
Yeah.
TAG grant update.
All right. Do you want to say something?
I'll just say
Chris?
the first part is, like I said before, the reimbursement. I have had waiting to go out. We were just waiting for the check, so that should be over there tomorrow, and we should be getting reimbursed.
That's last year's. Or
Yes,
this year.
yeah.
Okay, so the next grant is due
29th.
August 29th. Now, there are a couple things that we're thinking of. We were thinking of digitizing our maps. And Susan, I don't know, that $750, do you think that's a real figure for digitizing the maps?
I
or-
honestly only heard that through the town of Highland, sort of a great comment.
Do they work with Sullivan County Planning on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Highland worked with Sullivan County Planning.
Okay.
and
Well, this
what-
is the issue that we were thinking, a few of us were thinking about, is this is a planning grant as well as these other things like mapping and zoning, etc. And as a planning grant, they would approve a pilot study that we could do to see if it's feasible to have a jitney come from Manhattan up the river valley on Friday nights, returning on Sundays. If any of you are familiar with the Hampton Jitney, they have a Hampton Jitney. Now, what we could do is get some money just to start a company off. I've spoken with Rolling V bus company in Sullivan County. He's going to give us numbers. I'm going to be in contact with Shortline Bus Company to get numbers as well.
Do first student too.
Pardon?
First student.
First student.
Jane, I would say it
Avery.
really would be a good idea to run this by Lori.
I did
Ramey.
run it. I spoke to
You
Lori
did?
Travis.
No, Lori Ramey from UDC.
Lori to Travis O'Dell.
For Travis, okay, what did he think?
He said yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, oh yeah, he refused my other ideas.
All right.
But and I already forgot what the idea is. But anyway, it's a thought. And you're allowed to apply for two. So if you're really set on digitizing the maps, I don't see why we couldn't ask. Of course, I don't know how much money is available, and it might even be not enough to do
Right.
anything.
And who gives this money now, Jane? Where's this money come from?
UDC. They have $31,000 to divvy up between 15,
It's not 15.
it's 17, but two have never,
Okay.
two have never put in.
I have, Jane, when you say digitized maps, you're talking about the tax maps, or what are you talking about? Specific
I
maps?
really don't know.
What do you,
I think we're talking, Susan, digitizing maps means what?
what are we talking about, maps? What kind of maps?
Okay, we're talking about, first of all, the Park Service's Atlas map, which delineates the river corridor. That's the main goal, is that all the I guess, okay, the UDC's goal is that all the towns that comprise the UDC, which all border the river corridor, have in there that there's some consistency in town mapping. So UDC is always promoting that. It's promoting consistency, it's promoting information, it's promoting the fact that if you have a project, is it in the corridor or is it not in the corridor? So this is available. The reason it's a priority for them is because NPS made it available.
Right.
But it only works in a digital format, and come to find out that back when we did our open space plan, we did mapping, we had a consultant, and I would suspect at this point, well, first of all, those maps don't include this, okay? So it's a tool for the planning board.
Right. So they're
And
talking tax maps or road maps? It's tax maps.
we're talking not, it would overlay with tax map.
Okay.
It would overlay with a tax map. It
Okay.
overlays with
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
lots, block sections,
Okay.
and with also our zoning map.
Okay,
So,
okay, perfect.
There you go.
Okay. Very good.
and somebody brought up that you could have two grants, both small
Yeah, I'm
ones.
pretty sure there
So that's something else to consider. If
Right.
this is small, this could be half.
Right, exactly.
So I said that I would write that for us, but I need approval for what you want to do.
Right.
Do you want me to write for both of them? Do you want me to write
Yeah.
for one of them?
I think both.
Both. Okay, now, if we're wrong and you're only getting one grant, what do you want? The digitizing first?
Yeah.
I think you'd be better off if you
Digitize it
digitize,
first,
because
yeah.
that bus idea is a great idea, but it's gonna be costly.
Well, it's not gonna cost us anything.
No, I know that, but
It's
you
a
only have
study.
$30,000 or $31,000.
No, we don't have 31,000.
It's a feasibility
I know we
study.
don't, but that's, my point is that that's the total monies available, am I right? Split
Yes.
between 15
Yeah,
towns.
Yeah, you're only gonna get a couple
Right,
thousand.
right.
Okay.
Kathy, did you have a comment on that?
When Jane said about the digitizing maps, what maps, this is a little bit clearer now, but we do have a digital file of the river corridor we got from the Park Service back when we were doing that natural resource inventory. We have digital files from the county of all the different layers, the steep slopes, the streams, the water bodies, the roads, the residences and stuff. The one digital file we're missing, real property doesn't let go of the tax parcel boundaries in the digital format very easily. You have to pay for them. You can buy them one at a time. I bought one of them. It's not that much, but if we could use it to buy the tax boundaries, the tax file parcels, we can use, we've got all the other overlays, and then we can, then you'd know if,
So maybe that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what Highland did.
John
was
Jones's
overlay.
property is in what district and stuff. That's the one we really need, is
Yeah, we're gonna need to contact Andy and find out exactly what they did and, yeah,
Andy Boyer?
yeah.
Okay, I'll call him.
And they'll probably be willing to share.
Because
their
even
information.
if we go for the jitney, it would stop in Andy's Highlands, so
Right.
I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Is that bus service coming in now? Did they do that this summer?
No.
No, they did not. They talked about it, but then the short line bus, Joan, correct me if I'm wrong, is moving their operations, and so they wanted to come through Honesdale first, and so they kind of told us that next year they would be stopping here after they got to Honesdale. So how wonderful
It
is...
would be the last stop, so it wouldn't be very convenient for everyone.
No.
So we're trying to create a whole nother route with short line, which would make Narrowsburg the second or third stop from Manhattan.
Right.
Which would be more conducive for people to use it. I mean,
Right.
no one wants to sit on the bus for 3.5 hours and then end up at Narrow,
And then-
So
and
if we
this-
can get it from Manhattan and do up the river, it would be a home run for everyone,
Right.
So let's hope, that might work out too.
And Tony and then.
Last year I did some research for the DVAA with Shortline, and two things I found out. One, they don't have enough qualified drivers, and two, they don't have enough buses. So they are totally jammed on everything.
We don't want a bus. We want, probably not right away.
Whatever, but the point of it is the shoreline may not be the best place to go because they don't have a lot, there's not a lot of give and take there because they're totally sold
Well,
out.
Rolling V was like the idea, they're going to give us some figures. And short line, we owe the courtesy to get involved.
Yeah, because they used to have a stop here for
Yeah.
years, years
They
and
were very
years.
nice about
Yeah.
creating a new stop.
Yep.
so.
Very good. Okay, so
Okay, go on.
I'll move that we authorize Jane to write both tag grants, one for digitizing maps and the other for the jitney from feasibility study from Port Jervis to Hancock.
With a priority for, though, with a priority for the
Priority on the
digitizing.
Correct.
digitizing.
Correct. And it's not to Hancock, we'd only go to Calico.
Oh, okay, Calico, sorry. Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. School update. So far, we've had, Gary, can you tell us what you've had in your department?
I had a letter from the attorney for the Budos. They sent a letter basically stating how he thought it would fit into our zoning. I disagreed. Right now, it really doesn't fit into our zoning. And he also had an engineer call me with another plan as to what it would be qualified as, and I disagreed with that. And as that stands, they're free to go to the ZBA as far as to address what their attorney has a disagreement with, or they can go to the Department of State and ask for an interpretation and clarification of the code as it refers to that. That's where it stands right now.
And we don't have it, we haven't had, the zoning board of appeals was scheduled to meet last night. We hadn't had any applications from the ZBA, and there's nothing for the planning department. So that's where that stands. We also have, as everybody's well aware of, the lawsuit that was filed, and there's been some discussion in the past amongst board members and whatnot to see whether or not it would be viable to file an amicus brief, or if we want to look into this. So, Tony, I think.
Well, the supervisor had sent the lawsuit that about 14 individuals in the town of Tusten had filed against the Sullivan West School District, the Sullivan West School District Board, and then Mrs. Pudo. So did everybody have a chance to read that? I think it's called a notice of petition?
No.
Did you receive it?
No, absolutely not. No, I got the agenda, that's what I got.
This was an
Oh, that
email.
was a week ago or
This
so.
is an email that came out
Yeah.
with a PDF file about 10 days ago.
You're right.
I was away for a while, so it's possible that,
Norm, did you take a look at it?
Yeah.
You received it? Right.
Yeah.
Jane, did you read
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
and this is for what, Tony?
This is the lawsuit. This is the
Okay.
lawsuit from 14 individuals in Tustin against the district, the board, and Mrs. Budo. I've read it about 3 or 4 times, and can I just read that? There's a few points on here, and my point here was this. Let me get my notes, okay? It's regarding the 14 acres of vacant land. My objection to what had happened was the 14 acres of vacant land, which is on Kirk Road and it fronts Bridge Street, was never listed on the MLS, and it was never made available to the general public. And about 15 months ago, this board, by vote, sent a letter on our letterhead to Dr. Hackett, who's the superintendent of the Sullivan West Board. And this was in 2013 in February, and we said, we're interested in the 14 acres of vacant land, and we're reaching out to you, and we'd like to know what the status of the 14 acres is. And she replied back by letter, not by phone to the supervisor, but by letter. And I think many people have seen that letter. And I think that was in February or March of 2013, so it was over a year ago. And it said, I'll read it. It says, it was dated February 13th, and it said, "Dear Carol, We received your letter dated January 23rd requesting a meeting to discuss the possibility of the purchase of the 14.3 acres of vacant land located in Narrowsburg. We appreciate your interest in this property, but at this time, the land is not for sale. If in the future the Sullivan West Board of Education decides to put the property on the real estate market, we will have our real estate agent reach out to all interested parties. And goes on, something unrelated to this topic, sincerely, Nancy M. Hackett. And we received that, and we took her at her word. And when this whole thing played out about 2.5 months ago, the first that I had read about the offer was in the Sullivan County Democrat, and it went on that the 14 acres, my understanding was that somebody had tipped Mrs. Budo off that the 14 acres belonged to the district, and maybe she should approach the district, that the district might like to sell that, package that along with the school, which sits on 2 acres. All of a sudden, the 14 acres became in play. And I had heard that she might just walk away from the deal if the 14 acres wasn't part of the package. Now, my objection to that as a council person is that eventually the 14 acres became in play, to both the Widens and also to the Budos. Now, my concern is that I took the superintendent at her word that she was going to put this on the MLS and make it available not only to the Widens and to the Budos, but to the general public as well. Because I kept on hearing that their fiduciary responsibility was to get the taxpayers as much money as possible. And to be perfectly honest, they really didn't do that. And my opinion is they really cut this deal out of convenience for themselves, because there would be one buyer, one contract, and they kind of felt threatened because the buyer would walk away from this deal if they didn't get the 14 acres. So they kind of negotiated out of, they negotiated out of convenience, laziness, and weakness. So, it would have been a lot easier if she had picked up the phone and verbally said to the supervisor what she said, but she didn't. There's a letter right here. And I know for a fact that it seems that she should have advertised that, at the least, they should have said, hold off on this. If this is going to be 14 acres, let's do this thing by the law. That it has to be advertised, and you have to get as much money as you possibly can, maybe not from the Widens, maybe not from the Budos, but to the general public, and that didn't happen. So that brings us to one of the points, and there's a lot, because in this lawsuit here, or notice of petition, there's many points here, but where it says, on or about January 2013, the town board of the town of Tusten wrote to the district expressing its interest in acquiring the 14.3 acre parcel, and upon information and belief, the town wanted to acquire the parcel to provide further recreational opportunities for Tusten residents, or town residents. In 24, on or about February 2013, the district responded to the town advising that the 14.3 acre parcel was not available to purchase, and should it later become available, the district would have its real estate agent reach out to all interested parties. A copy of the district's letter to the town is attached as Exhibit C, which I just read to everybody. I'm really annoyed at that. I think it took a lot of courage for the 14 individuals in this lawsuit that was filed about 2 weeks ago to really go out on a limb, and there's other things, and I think that everybody who's a resident of the town of Tusten should read this, because it's not just the 14 acres. That's where I object to. But I think that that was not the way it should have been. I think that it should have been advertised, marketed to everybody, the general public. And we get to the point of an amicus. This is not unusual for the town of Tusten to an amicus. I will read you briefly. Just give me 2 seconds. Amicus is a friend of the court. Frequently, a person or a group who is not a party to a lawsuit but has a strong interest in the matter will petition the court for permission to submit a brief in the action with the intent of influencing the court's decision. I'll give you another one. One, as a professional person or an organization that is not party to a particular litigation, but that is permitted by the court to advise in respect to some matter of law that directly affects the case in question. That's the gist of what an amicus is. We've done this 5 years ago when we filed an amicus regarding Article 14. The town of Dryden asked us, who was being sued, to become a friend of the cause or the court. We did, along with 169 other towns in the state of New York. What I would like to discuss with the board tonight is, since we didn't receive this lawsuit, and we're not plaintiffs here, okay? We are indirectly affected and directly affected because it also mentions our zoning. It mentions our comprehensive plan. It's a very detailed notice of petition here. What I would like to discuss with the board tonight is whether the board thinks it's proper to become a friend of the 14 individuals that have filed this lawsuit against the district board, and also Mrs. Budo. And that's how I forward that with the 14 acres, and I believe that we should.
So Tony, is it, if you file the amicus, let me understand this. If they file the amicus and they're trying to overturn this sale, or the sale at
Can you
this point.
excuse me one moment? Can you make that in the form of a motion? We'll have a second,
Oh.
and then we'll have discussion.
You would like me to, okay, geez, I would like,
Okay, I'll let Jeffrey address it first.
Okay, good.
I just like to address this point because I remember very clearly what the discussion was at the time of that 14 acre issue. And I think that the petition / lawsuit that was filed says more than we said at the time about what our goals were. Because I remember quite precisely that we didn't have any specific goals. There was a general discussion that the 14 acres were there, and that the town might use it for various town purposes, including maybe putting a town hall down there or whatever, but there was no specific plan, there was no specific reason. And the vote was to just send a general inquiry to see if it was available, and if it was available, would it be available at a price that the town would want to spend. So a general inquiry was made, and a general answer was received. None of that is legally enforceable or of any significance in a court. We asked the question, is it available? And the answer was no. Now, the fact that they said, we'll let you know when it is not a legally binding event. We did not purchase a right of first refusal. We did not legally set our position. And we had, and that lawsuit seems to say we wanted to make walking paths or all kinds of wonderful things, but that was not in fact the case. The town did not have a plan for that property. So we can't go to a court as an amicus on this one if we're supposedly a party that's aggrieved by this thing, when I can tell you quite clearly, we're not a party that's aggrieved. We have no legal basis to argue that what they did with that 14 acres deprived the town of anything, because we had no specific anything, and their response to us was a general response which has no legal significance.
I understand your point, but when I'm legally, this is my question legally, is what the school board did, where at the last minute, because that's what they did, at the last minute, they bundled the 14 acres in.
Tony, I know, but you've got a lot of emotion wrapped into this issue.
No,
emotion doesn't translate into law.
I just want to ask the question, what the school board did at the last minute by not informing the general public, was that legal or not?
Well, that's an issue that the litigants are raising. The
That's
court
my
will
question.
determine that.
I just want to.
But you say last minute. I don't know what last minute is.
In the 11th hour, that basically.
Well, you're characterizing it that way.
How about?
There was notice. It went into the project. The school board released that issue and said that submit best and final offers and submit a package bid. There was notice. Maybe whether you judge that to be last minute or not, legally, it's quite. There's no insufficiency.
Jeff, my understanding was from reading the newspapers was that there was notice given to Mr. and Mrs. Wyden and Miss Budo, but not to anybody else, that the 14 acres was going to be available.
I would suggest that you don't make judgments based on general statements in newspapers.
No, but
The
I still haven't had
issue
my
is being
answer.
raised in that action. It'll be litigated in that action.
But my question again is, was it legal for the school district to just put the 14 acres, bundle it in play without anybody else except the Wydens and the Budos knowing about it? That's my question, and it still hasn't been answered.
That's not the issue for the town. It's the
Yes,
town
it
has
is.
an issue.
For me,
Does the town have a grievance? Does the town have a legally recognizable grievance? And we don't.
My question is still not answered.
Okay. Because a lot of us have discussed this individually, one-on-one and whatnot, so I got the flavor of everybody, and we did, the retainer was signed and sent to Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah. Dave Everett is the attorney that will be advising the board, advising the planning board and the ZBA. And I would suggest, because there are such strong feelings on this, that your motion be to get a second opinion.
That's fine, but I
on the
understand
matter
that. But
and
before
ask them.
I lose this train of thought, I just kept on hearing for the last 2 months, our fiduciary responsibility, meaning the school board, was to get as much money as we possibly could for the Sullivan West School District. I get it, okay? But the point is, they got the winning bid, I think, was 751, right? Okay, so let's say they put that 14 acres on the open market, okay, through the MLS, and let's just say they got $80,000 for the 14 acres, even though it was appraised for $140,000 5 years ago, and that's public record. You can get that from Dewan and Schott, who the school board, okay, used as an appraiser. 140 for 14 acres, and let's say that's rich, okay? Let's say it's $80,000, and let's say somebody bought this the building for $700, and they bought somebody else bought the 14 acres for $80. That comes up to $780,000, which to me is more than $751,000. So if they keep on telling me about our fiduciary responsibility is to get as much money as we can for the taxpayers in the district, they didn't do their job.
Tony, I think you also have to look back on the history of the Calhoun School. If you look back on that sale, they apparently had sold some property prior, like that field, and then they had to buy the property back from the other people they sold it to so that the deal would go through. Yeah. So they might have been, that might have been a huge issue on their plate that they said, listen, we can't separate the properties because it's not worth what it was.
I think what it was
separate, and it wasn't listed on the MLS.
I understand that.
I think it was out of convenience. I think it was out of more convenience and a bit of laziness on their behalf that they didn't want to draw 2 contracts and possibly have 2 different buyers.
I agree with basically everything you said.
Thank you.
But I also agree with Jeffrey. I don't think the town has the legal basis to go into that aspect of it, because it is being raised by them, but the town didn't have, I understand what Jeffrey's saying. So, like I said, my recommendation, I will make a motion that we get a second opinion on the matter, and we ask Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah, Dave Everett, does the town have, how did you word that?
A legally recognizable claim.
A legally recognizable claim.
Because I know from the facts of the situation that, in my opinion, we cannot honestly swear to anything about town plans and walk paths and the things that are being said today, because there were none of those things.
I understand that.
But, okay, so I made a motion. Does the town have a legal, to ask of Dave Everett, of Whiteman, Osterman, Hannah, does the town have a legally recognizable claim? It'll be a second opinion on the matter as far as legality is concerned. And
well, let me just say this. This isn't really a land use issue. It's a contract issue. And we didn't have one, period.
Jeff, we sustained no injury in that case, right? Town? So what do we have to litigate?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what I'm saying.
So I understand that, I get it, but I think
and
because
furthermore,
so many people,
the numbers that Tony just came up with, it's legally called speculative. And that's not evidence and it's not proof, and courts don't recognize coulda, shoulda, woulda, and we can dream up all kinds of scenarios. That doesn't drive a lawsuit.
Let me ask you a question, okay? I don't want to belabor the point, but let's say, okay, hypothetically, okay, because if this was private property, you could change the deal at the last minute in this situation. But the reason I bring this up is because it belongs to the taxpayers of the Sullivan West District. So my point is this. Let's say this building, which is a municipal building, was for sale, okay? And it's on the MLS and it has a listing agent, and you get a buyer. You get 2 buyers, okay? And basically, at the last minute, somebody finds out, one of the buyers finds out that the town of Tusten has 7 vacant acres about 2 miles away on Route 97. They say, they say to the supervisor, we're interested and we want to go to contract here, but we just found out you got 7 vacant acres about 1/5 of a mile down the road, and we're going to walk away from this deal buying this building if we don't get that 7 acres of vacant land that the town of Tusten owns. And we decide, the board, oh yeah, we'll throw that in as well. I guess that's basically the analogy that I am making, that we'll throw it in as well without letting the general public know that that 7 acres is
disputing
there.
that. We all agree. We're all in agreement that that was wrong. I mean, we all feel it was wrong, whether it was legally wrong or not.
That is my point. That has been my point, is just that. The process was wrong. And,
agreed.
And you have proof.
But that's in the lawsuit, Tony. That's in the lawsuit that they've already filed.
That's 14 individuals that live in Tusten that filed that.
Right.
And then you point to your injured party.
So, I have a
So that
motion
point
on
will
the
come
floor.
out.
Can I have a second?
Would you repeat the motion, please?
The motion is that the town authorize the supervisor to take the issue to Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna, Dave Everett, the attorney, to have a second opinion on this matter, and does the town have a legally recognizable claim to file an amicus brief with this suit?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion.
I said my
You
piece.
said your piece. Ned?
Let me just talk about this, the Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah. Where did these guys come from? When did we sign the retainer? And we, and I mean, I didn't get a copy of the retainer or anything in my mailbox, did I?
No.
Okay, so,
No.
how did all this happen? Well, we
It
had
happened at the last meeting.
Okay, but that was, the only thing we were gonna discuss from the agenda that I read for the last meeting was just for that, to sign the check.
Right, that was
Sign
all
the
we were
check.
supposed to discuss, and then a lot of things came up because of your letter that you wrote to Ed Jackson,
But that
et cetera, and
should've-
so forth.
That should have been in that agenda, because I had other things
Well,
to
it
do
wasn't on the
today.
agenda, and board members can bring things up, and there
But-
you go. I
But there
mean,
was no agenda. I mean, this was not part of the agenda, so now, let's follow me up.
Yep.
Why, when, how much money, I mean,
The board authorized me to negotiate, well, to sign the retainer.
do you have a copy of the
It
motion?
was $2,500. We had it at that, I had it at that meeting. I don't know that I have the,
Because I asked, I
Have it
kinda
here
wanted
now.
to phone up on this, Nicole.
pardon, it was it was $2,500 as a retainer. Whatever, I mean, for this, we're gonna have to pay for this advice, because this is not in connection with, land use and the Budos, and the, anything that we're gonna need advice on from that end. When the planning board and the, ZBA, they might have to use them in that context, and then the other party would be billed for that. Whoever's bringing that
But don't you think it would have
project.
been more appropriate just to wait another week or two and just discuss the whole thing here instead of jumping on this so quickly? I mean, why was there such a big, excuse me, this is a board meeting?
Yeah, please
Okay.
please don't interrupt.
Yeah, no, this is a
Excuse
board
me, I'm the
meeting.
chair, and I just asked them not to interrupt.
Right,
Thank you.
okay, good. So then let's hope they comply. So, anyway, so wouldn't it have been a better idea to discuss this openly at a regular board meeting
Well, we
that's
did.
been
We had
advertised in
over
an
30
agenda
people
and on
here.
an agenda that everybody could have read so that we could all been up to speed on such an important undertaking?
Well, the ZBA was scheduled to meet last night, and that was prior to our board meeting this evening. And we had full well expected to have an application before the ZBA regarding this matter,
My
so
God.
it was timely.
Right, I hear you, but I got the emails from Kevin before I went away that they had nothing in their box and nothing in their packet and they weren't
That
gonna have a
was
meeting.
Friday.
That was a week ago.
Right, that's
That
what I'm
was
saying.
Friday. Yeah.
Right, but wait,
It was a week ago Friday.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait a minute, but as far back as July 25th, you knew that the town was considering
Right.
hiring an attorney, because you sent an
Yes,
email to
absolutely.
everybody.
Yes, and exactly right. So then we never had any discussion in an open forum
Well, we
at
did.
a regular board meeting.
No, we did, because
With-
the thing
with
is,
an
we
agenda-
met,
as an agenda
no,
item.
excuse me,
Tony.
wait. We met 2 weeks ago at 10:30 in the morning, right?
That was just to
Remember?
sign a check.
No.
That was the agenda,
No,
to sign
no,
the check.
no, basically, we had a meeting. Remember, I was at a red light and I said,
Yes, and
Ned, there's a
yes,
meeting,
and
there's
I
a
had-
meeting going on.
And I had a meeting I had to be at for my business, and I couldn't make the meeting because it was only to sign a check. But there was no agenda item, there was no agenda, and we had this, now we're in contract with an attorney in Albany. Am I right? Albany?
Correct.
And without
Yeah, but-
Okay, you
bringing
know
this
what?
up before the board.
Yeah.
That's it, you missed the
Yeah.
meeting, sorry,
But
but
there was
we.
no, it was not on the agenda, Jane, that's the
But-
problem.
And
These
the
things
board,
happen.
the
There's
board
lots of
can
things that-
decide
We
to
have
bring,
sunshine laws in the
excuse
state.
me, the board can decide to bring up another agenda item. They can put something on the agenda. So the board was in agreement, it was 4-0. They were in agreement to discuss the matter. They were in agreement it was 4-0 to hire the attorney. So I'm sorry you missed the meeting. Councilman Ritter had gone over to the attorney's office
To pick up
to
the copy of
pick
the
up a
contract.
copy of the contract. And he saw you at the end putting up a sign or something and told you, we're in session now if you
And I
want
knew
to
that,
come.
and I knew that, and the
And you
agenda
said,
was
well,
only
you've
just to
got-
sign a check.
And you told
And
him,
here we are with an
well,
attorney.
you have,
Anyway, we can move on, but I think we should have had that whole discussion here at a regular board meeting, my point.
thank you. Any other discussion?
Well, I basically I feel that, as I discussed with Jeff right here tonight, that I don't think the town is really an aggrieved party in this deal. I think emotion is a running point, and the point is, we're not here to represent emotions, but to go with the legal points. As far as I've understood contractual law in my explanations, and I don't think there is a point in us going any further with this, because we're not an injured party.
The town has no legal power over the sale of any kind of school property. We can't tell them anything, we have no legal right to ask them. Our supervisor went to their meeting and raised issues, and that was proper. She raised issues that people were concerned about to the school board, and that's how it works. But there's no legal power. The town has no standing to say to a court that the school board shoulda, woulda, coulda. It doesn't exist.
Even if it was inappropriate. That was my point from the get-go tonight, was I believe that they should, I believe
that
that they
doesn't
should.
matter,
We're
Tony.
going down the same road again.
Well,
That
because,
doesn't matter.
look, if the parcel was anyplace else, but because it
But the
happens to be
town
in the middle of town.
cannot get involved. We have no power. It's a school board issue, not a town issue.
Well, wait, it's a school board issue, but obviously 14 individuals from Tustin have objections to why that happened,
And
along
they're
with
in
4 other
court
things.
raising those objections, and,
understand
and that's the way it should be.
But those are individuals, and we're a municipal entity, and we don't have that standing.
I call
because
the
we're not aggrieved.
question, Carol.
Call the question.
Call the question.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
Aye.
No, put no on
No, okay, so.
You're opposed?
3-2.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're asking for a second opinion. That's what
Okay,
we're doing.
motion carried. Okay, new business. Notice of the lawsuit filed that Lang has filed suit against the town of Tusten. Nymer will be representing the town of Tusten in that matter. So that's an ongoing litigation. That's all we can discuss at this point, but just wanted to put it out there. Dog enumeration. We discussed this a year ago or so. It did not pass. The towns are charged by New York State Ag and Markets law to to license dogs. We're charged with that because it's a matter of health and safety. It's basically you license dogs to ensure that they have their rabies vaccinations, which rabies is more prevalent than it used to be. I know, Ned, you're probably going to disagree with this, and you had issues before. You can't
I'm consistent,
vaccinate.
Carol, I'm consistent.
Yeah, you can't vaccinate every raccoon in Tusten, which I agree, but with that being said, raccoons don't come in contact with the general population as dogs do. Dogs get loose, they are attracted to people, it's a matter of health and safety. I think it's important. When I was town clerk, we had minimal licenses. I checked with Nicole again. We have 62, I believe, licenses, dogs that are licensed in the town of Tusten. I could probably count on one street 60 dogs in the town of Tusten. So there's an issue. There's a problem. The other problem that we have is we have a 911 sign law, which really doesn't have any teeth as far as enforcement. There's no fines or penalties if you're not in compliance, but it is a law. I know I've talked to the Tusten ambulance, I've talked to the fire departments. It is difficult to find some places because they do not have their 911 signage out. So it's a matter of making people aware. If we have an enumeration for dogs, they're going to be hitting every house. You can do the same, you can do them together. You can advise them, here's the information on how to get your 911 sign if you don't have it out. And if you have a dog in the house, you need to comply. And if you don't, these are the repercussions, et cetera, and so forth. So,
But Carol, if an individual has, like in my driveway, no trespassing, private property, no trespassing, that individual cannot go on your property.
no, that's not if it's a public official. Public officials can, our code enforcement officer can, your state police can, anybody that's in an official capacity
That's
like
not
that
true.
has a legal
Carol,
capacity.
They can't come on your property unless they have.
Am I correct?
Yeah, they can't just enter your property for any reason.
If we authorize an enumerator to go out and enumerate dogs in the town, they would be legally authorized to access the property, correct?
Yeah.
So
any state policeman can just come on your property anytime he wants, is what you're telling me?
for a reason.
What's the reason?
The reason is
They can't come in your house, but you can certainly go on your
Well,
property.
that's
they can
not, I don't
knock
believe
on
in
your
that. I don't
door.
believe
They can knock on your door.
that. I don't believe that. If you have a private property sign out, that means it's your property, and when they do that, they trespass.
They throw your mail on the grass.
Do you have a dog?
Absolutely, I just got a dog,
Do
absolutely.
you have it licensed?
I just got him.
Okay.
So,
Is he licensed?
no wonder.
but the bottom line, big deal. Anyway, so the bottom line is, I don't
Yes,
believe that
real.
these people have the right, because it's a personal property issue as far as I'm
Okay,
concerned.
and how about the census? The United States Census sends census workers out to every single home in the United States of America.
Oh, really? I've never- Not mine.
As a matter of fact, I believe that if you have no trespassing signs and somebody does trespass on your property and gets hurt, I believe they can sue you, even though they weren't supposed to be there. I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just a
all
point of
public
information.
comment.
Yeah.
How much is
Oh,
a
yeah.
dog license?
A dog license is
Spayed and neutered is $10. I think unspayed is
Bernie knows,
20,
he's
I
got
think.
3 of them,
Yeah.
right?
Take it
Unspayed,
out of the
unneutered
general
is 20,
fund.
we believe, and if they're spayed or neutered, they're 10.
And how does one get one?
come see me
Come to the town clerk.
with your rabies certificate.
Yeah, you need to have a current rabies certificate in order to get the license.
And what's a current rabies certificate? How old?
3 years.
It ranges from 1 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So if you go to a clinic and you don't have prior documentation of a vaccination, one of those free clinics, they'll only give you a year, and then when you go back the next year, they'll give you 3.
What about for cats?
I did it.
Cats, we don't license. It's only dogs that we're charged by law with doing.
I just think it's
Can we hold public comment, please? We'd like to.
I just think it's an incursion on private property and private rights. I'm not for that at all.
What if the house was on fire and firemen come up and saw the sign
What?
and they didn't go in?
What'd you do then?
Good point, Bernie.
So you're asking for the board approval to hire someone to go around? Is that what
Correct.
you're asking? Do you know, I'm gonna sound like Ned, I'm
Good,
worried.
Jane, you sound
Do
better
you
all the
know
time.
how much that'll cost, Carol?
My proposal is to pay mileage. And, well, just the mileage, and then either half or whole of the, whatever they bring in. So if they've gone out and they've collected 100 brought in 100 dog licenses for the town, that they get that money up front. And like I said, either half or whole, depends on what the board's flavor is. So they'll get $5 or $10 or 10 or 20. And that money be used to pay them. the following years, if we have like new licenses, if we have 200 new licensed dogs, the town is going to receive that income from here to the time the dog passes if everybody renews their licenses. So that's my theory. It'll be income for the town in the long run. So it's not going to cost you
And the
tons of
9/11
money.
signs might be upgraded.
Right, and I think we have, what, like 65 miles of road in the town of Tusten, plus our county and state law roads, but, so, I mean, we're not talking,
A lot of
2,000 miles, we're talking a couple hundred miles probably.
How much, what's the rate per mile,
It's 54 or 55 cents a mile.
depending on the price of gasoline?
No, it's already set in our budget. So that's my proposal.
What if you get bit?
Okay. Pardon?
Did this solicitation be put in people's tax bills?
No. It's that, yeah, that would be difficult to do with the taxes. There's a whole other issue on that.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
So, if you want to make a motion.
Okay, and
With the 9/11, I mean, I think that's important if the emergency people can't find.
Yeah, it's
You
probably
must
gonna-
have problems, right? Yes.
it's probably going to take a little while just to formulate like the wording on like a postcard to hand out
Right.
with it, the information, and maybe print up dog license applications so that they can hand them out. And then the other note was, what kind of penalty do we give for non-compliance? Like if we give them, say, a 15-day window or a 30-day window to go get their rabies certificates and get their license in, then they wouldn't be fined. But if it goes past that period of time, then they'd have a fine of,
I'm not saying more $20.
okay, then they have a fine of $20. Okay.
I think it's just double whatever the license is.
The only other thing would be it's a good,
It's
good
what?
Boy Scout project.
Yes.
An Eagle Scout project.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that the supervisor be authorized to advertise for a dog enumerator that will be paid mileage as well as, do we want the full amount or the half amount?
Half amount.
Half the amount of each license brought in as a result of the enumeration.
And then
And that people have 30 days or 20 days? How long to comply?
30.
30 days to comply.
Yeah, you gotta try to get it up.
If they don't by that time, that the fine will be $20.
And then you want to say something about at the same time they'll be given 9/11?
And at the same time, they'll be given information to how to obtain their 911 address placard. Can I have a second?
Second.
All
Carol,
in
don't we
favor?
have an enumerator already?
No.
What's Mike Cookingham?
He's the dog control officer.
Should he do it then?
Yeah.
Be a perfect candidate.
Well, we're gonna.
He knows who's
He
got-
might be. He might not want it either. I don't know. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Who's opposed?
Ned.
Okay. Oh,
Motion
because there are
carried.
people on your property, that's why. Okay.
Okay. Motion to surplus, I just counted them when I came downstairs tonight. We have 6 chairs. They're those older chairs that we have. They're the flat, wide ones that have no rollers on them. Some of them are falling apart. They're all taking up a lot of space back here. And we've got a couple upstairs. So there's 6 altogether. They're, do we want to, how much do we want to sell them for?
We give $5 to be happy.
$5?
Give a hug.
Okay. So motion to surplus 6 office
Let me
chairs.
see, are they safe? You say they're falling
Yeah, well,
apart.
some, if you pick up on it, you can.
No, I mean, as long
go
as,
to
I mean, you don't
move
want
it.
to sell something
Yeah,
that
no,
somebody's
yeah,
gonna
no.
get hurt with.
Yeah, no.
If
they're
they're falling
safe.
apart.
They're safe, they're just, if you
Oh, all
pick
right.
up on it to move it,
Okay.
it comes apart, so you gotta put it back together. So it's just the way they're made.
Oh, all
So-
right.
If you're sitting on it, you're okay.
Yeah, sitting on it, you're good.
Here, why don't you just put a sign outside, free chairs? How about
Yeah,
that?
right. gonna cost you that much to advertise
Yeah,
for them.
just put
Right.
them outside, say free.
So yeah, just give them away.
Please.
Yeah.
Give it to the Salvation Army.
Yeah, not exactly sure if
Give
it's
it
legal
to the
for us to just
Salvation
go
Army,
free.
take a tax write-off.
Well, you're saving yourself the money that you'd have for scrap.
I don't think the town has a tax issue to write off, Bernie.
So motion to surplus 6 office chairs to be advertised, well, we don't even really need to, do we need to advertise? I guess we should
No,
advertise.
I don't think
what?
so.
Huh?
I think we should just
Give them
ditch
away.
Give away? First come, first serve? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put a sign out.
Okay, so motion to surplus 6 office chairs,
First come,
to be
first.
given, first come served, first served.
Yeah, just cross out that should be advertised.
So we'll put a notice on the bulletin board out front.
Yeah.
Okay, second?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Number 18, motion to recognize volunteers with a certificate and pen and possibly a luncheon for the hard work and dedication provided to our township. This has been an issue for me for years and years and years. When I was town clerk, I recognized the volunteers in this town, and they don't get the recognition or the appreciation that they deserve, I think, a lot of times. And I just like a venue for the town to be able to appreciate them.
There is a venue, but maybe not the town, but there's a volunteer dinner that is given every year.
RSVP?
No, it's church. St. Paul's has.
Okay, that's only, isn't that just firemen?
No,
That's everybody?
They invite everybody.
Okay, okay.
They invite
They do it.
everybody.
Okay, well, I think it's important for the township to recognize them as well. It's, just with a certificate and a pen and coffee or something, no?
As a volunteer, I think it's very nice, but if you forget someone, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous. And I don't know, we have plenty of volunteers right out here. We
I
can
know,
ask
and
about that.
The verbal is fine, I mean, they shouldn't have to go through all these hoops, and if you want to just make a general resolution recognizing the value of the volunteers for town, I think that would cover it.
Yeah, maybe if you could have an annual resolution.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that
I just think it's important for us to recognize the dedication and the value in volunteers. It's astounding what has gotten done in this town because of volunteers. I mean, we have a volunteer ambulance, we have 2 fire departments, we have the beautification group, we have our energy committee, all of our committees, every single committee that served this town for decades, and it's all volunteer. And our planning boards, our ZBA, there are just so many people that are involved, and we wouldn't be the town that we are, and people wouldn't want to love to come here.
How
if it
about a
wasn't for
resolution
volunteers.
annually and a letter to the formal groups, which is the ambulance, the fire companies,
Okay,
and beautification if you want,
yeah.
right? I don't know.
What about a really nice certificate and ask maybe the DVAA to help design it? Where you give it to somebody that says, for year of service, la 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 la, and you give it to them. And make it pretty, not something you just print off of a computer, but something that's nicely done. And you give them a certificate. And Jane, if we forget somebody, we'll mail it to them. It's just a nice gesture. And some people will put it on their wall, and some people will slide it into their desk. But it does acknowledge volunteerism, which is the backbone of how we get things done here. Why not? It's just paper.
Kill a tree.
Agreed.
And give each of them a chair.
So for the rest of the board, do we get certificates and well, just certificate, maybe a pen? I already have pens that I had ordered when I was town clerk. And
It's just nice to be recognized. That's what
Yeah.
you're trying to do. It's just nice.
yeah. Well,
I think I like Jane's idea. You give it to the groups and say thank you very much, and that's you recognizing everybody.
okay.
Pass it from house to house.
Okay. So no motion. We'll just
do it.
As long as it don't cost anything.
We agreed by consensus to make a resolution each year, right? Is there such a thing as a
We
consensus?
don't have to need a resolution to make a resolution.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll just
I'm just trying
do
to help you
something
get
up.
through this, Karen.
Okay. Barn rehabilitation and local law discussion.
Yeah, I'll kick this up shortly. This is barn rehabilitation. There's a nice gentleman that works across the street named Travis Odell. He is the resource director of the Upper Delaware Council, lives up in Fremont. He's also, I think, the president of the Basket Historical Society. Anyway, he brought this up at the Upper Delaware Council, and other towns have done this before regarding barns that were built prior to 1934. And a lot of times, if you look around the landscape, barns are falling, some people's barns are falling apart. And this is a way, for instance, if you have a barn that was built prior to 1934 and it needs some sort of repair, and you do want to repair it, you want to put X amount of money into it, you would have a sliding scale so that, for instance, my barn is falling apart. I have now invested $20,000 in making the barn structurally sound again, and it's been there since 1867. Now all of a sudden, because money has been put into that barn, right, the property is more valuable. So then he might or she might get more. The assessment might be more next year. This is a law, for instance, that you'd have a sliding scale, kind of like a forestry exemption, that you would not be taxed the full amount for the money you've invested in making that barn better, that there would be a sliding scale for, I think, 10 years. And I think that Travis Odell had sent the local law to all the board members. And that's what this is all about. It's preserving the barns that you have instead of them just falling apart and they're gone. That's what that is.
Hey, Ken, you and I talked about this before, like on painting in and stuff over there, and you said that you wouldn't raise the assessment on anybody that was improving or painting their property. Is that true?
Generally, yes.
So
if you're just doing maintenance, putting a new roof on, painting the exterior, that is a reason to raise your assessment.
So if somebody redid their barn and improved their barn, painted, put a new roof on it, which is the only thing you really could do to a barn, would you assess them more for that?
Structurally also.
Not unless they're rebuilding it. The line's going to be, are they basically taking just the skeleton and making a whole new barn? And the next point is most of our barns in this town are already finished. It's too late for them.
Yeah.
We've lost them.
Just the guy in Lava.
Spur Farm is going down. They got rid of
Next
one,
year.
they're going down. My barn is not in great shape.
Yeah.
Anyway, the local law that was sent to the board, if they want to take a look at it, and I think that, the assessor should also have some input on this as well, because the thing is that, that's what Mr. Odell wanted me to bring to the board, and he also wanted every town up and down the river valley on the New York and the Pennsylvania side to bring this up, so that's what I'm doing.
Right, well, it says in the local law, the purpose of this local law is to provide an incentive for the owners of historic barns to undertake the reconstruction and/or rehabilitation of these important structures for this generation and future generations of town residents and property owners. So, reconstruction, would that qualify for?
Depends on what they do.
Rehabbing it, really. I mean, it's
If you're going to make a
fixing
house out of it, that's rehabbing
Right.
it maybe, then.
But that's not a barn anymore.
No,
right. So as for just simply preservation of the barn, I'm not so sure that we
Right.
necessarily need a local law
Right.
if there's not going to be
Right.
any impact on assessment anyway.
And the other question I have is why 1934? That just kind of hits me. Why 19? You know what I mean? I mean, your dad's barns are probably what, 40, 50s?
the original of that barn is around 1930.
So, but he's not impacting people that do
I
that.
didn't write the law, I'm just
I
the
know.
messenger here, I'm just.
No, I know that. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, Kenny, I've had this discussion with him before, and he told me if I improved the properties, whatever, that he wouldn't raise the tax appraised value.
My question would be, how do you establish how old these things are? They're not part of the land record. It's an open question.
Yeah.
Huh?
Throw it up in the air and guess.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd establish the age of most of these barns.
Right.
Because they're not,
Right.
it's just not,
Right.
that information is not contained anywhere.
Right.
Possibly, it's hit or miss, and surveys
Yeah.
aren't all public. Most
It's gonna
surveys
be
in New
where
York
somebody
State.
says what was built in 1925, are they right? No.
Yeah,
Were they there? No.
There's no way I know of establishing that.
Could carbon date it.
Yeah, we get it right by a century or two.
Your
Okay,
price is
so-
You can certainly tell who the oldest ones are.
Not issue?
Let's move on.
Not issue, we'll move on. Okay. Number 20, New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, I just got this the other day. On property tax freeze credit. I'll read this to you. The property tax freeze credit is a 2-year tax relief program that reimburses qualifying New York State homeowners for increases in local property taxes on their primary residence. In order for the credit to be available to homeowners in a local taxing jurisdiction, the jurisdiction must comply with the New York State property tax cap, and after the first year must also develop an efficiency plan. The law is effective for school districts starting with the 2014 to 15 school year and for cities, towns, villages, counties, and special districts in fiscal years beginning in 2015. This fall, the tax department will mail checks to homeowners that receive star exemption and live in school districts that stay within the property tax cap. Additional details are available from documents located at the tax department website. See the following links. So, I did not look into this yet in the links. I don't know what it all entails to what kind of efficiency plan that they're speaking of. So, just want to know if this is something that the board wants to pursue.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I think it's a good idea if we can pull it off. I mean, we have so far stayed within the tax cap. It hasn't been an issue for us. I don't see that we won for
Right.
any
Right.
other reason than an emergency or something, but.
Unless we build a very expensive deck.
Oh, I was thinking that, Jane, but we're gonna get to that.
Work.
We're gonna get to that.
So everybody want me to look into it?
Yes, definitely,
Okay.
Carol.
And then when it comes to the efficiency plan, we'll need help formulating that, I'm sure, so.
Well, so you'll look into it and tell us more
I'll get
about it
back to you
next-
on,
next
yep.
meeting.
Okay, let me just write my notes here. Go back.
Carol's going to look into this and get back to us. That's what we missed.
Okay, and number 21, Code of Ethics violation. Ned, this was brought up at our last meeting as well, because of the letter that you sent out. The board did discuss it, and we decided to discuss it at this meeting. I've asked Jeffrey about the matter. I've also looked into it, done some research on ethics and whatnot. I've gone over our code of ethics. As far as my research, because our attorney wasn't present, we didn't have any attorney-client privilege there and whatnot, so that makes it a little muddier.
Where? Didn't have where, Jen?
In that executive session that you attended, where you raised the issue, after which you raised the issue.
It wasn't exact, that was a recess meeting,
It was a recess meeting for the purpose of an executive session to discuss an employment history matter, but Ed was there for that, and that issue was brought up, so that was the issue. I think your letter upset a lot of people due to the fact that you sent it, you didn't copy the town's attorney on it, but you copied Rick Lander, Joan Buto, and her attorney, Robert Lander.
Right.
So, so let me finish. We also, in the Code of Ethics, it says you can't divulge confidential material. Most people, we were assuming that meant executive session, but we don't have a definition of what confidential material might be, and we don't have, it doesn't definitively say that you can't divulge executive session material. Everybody knows that you shouldn't, but it's not in our ethics law. So,
But that meeting was never even called to order because Nicole wasn't even there when I left. Yes, true.
oh,
The meeting
okay,
wasn't
yeah,
even in
true.
session.
Okay, so it was an executive session. Okay, I didn't even realize that, so I apologize, but I take exception with your letter. I think the first issue I take with it is kind of, you're bullying the planning board chairman. Sure. Good morning, Ed. I want to take a few minutes and review our conversation at the recessed town board meeting on July 14th concerning the Tusten Planning Board and the Bueto's proposed rehabilitation facility at the Narrowsburg School Building. I have some real concerns as a town board member and lifelong Tusten resident with your intentions as the Tusten Planning Board chairman concerning the review of the conversion of the Narrowsburg School as a private rehabilitation facility. When I asked you, quote, why you proposed to hire a law firm from Albany to represent the Tusten Planning Board and not an attorney from Sullivan County who specializes in planning law, unquote, you stated, quote, that we don't have any attorneys in Sullivan County with the expertise required for this review, and the Buetos will be paying for them, and it's going to take at least a year for the planning review, end quote. I find your comments to be at best biased toward the Buetos and at worst discriminatory. The planning or zoning boards will not be reviewing the use of the property as federal law trumps local zoning, as you know, when property is used to assist disabled Americans. New York State, Oasis, and Sullivan County's Department of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse will oversee the daily operation at all levels of this facility. The school also facilitated the education of 300+ students and scores of faculty during its heyday with no traffic snarls or other negative impacts, and the proposed facility anticipates approximately just 10 to 15% of the former school staff and client population according to public statements made by the Buetos. I can see no reason that any traffic or other similar studies would need to be undertaken to achieve planning board approval. Tusten recently undertook a complete overhaul of its zoning and substantially changed the town's zoning, and now we are in the middle of a zoning rewrite for Tusten. These zoning changes substantially change the uses of every land use district within our town and nearly double the zoning law in Tusten. I do not remember or know of Tusten engaging in any land use attorney to advise Tusten about the legality of or the impacts of such substantial changes that impact every individual and business in Tusten. In light of this, you would like to have the Buetos pay for a law firm from Albany whom will bill for their travel time to and from Albany to oversee the planning and review of the proposed rehabilitation facility, which is so desperately in our county. I assume you may need it.
Right.
I strongly urge you to rethink your position on this matter and to avert almost certain litigation and its potential costs. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Ned Lang. So, like I said, I have a couple of issues. It's strong. To strongly urge you to rethink your position on this matter to avert almost certain litigation and its potential costs. For you to make that statement and send this to the potential litigants is absurd. It sounds like you're representing them rather than the town constituents.
That was done in a meeting. It's public information, and if that's what I want to say, that's my right to say it. And
I
if you want
understand it's not your right to say it.
excuse me, this we're not asking for your comment, Tony, or anybody else. So if I want to make that assertion, that statement, that is my right as an individual, and most certainly as a board member, to protect the interests of this town.
As I said, I don't have it when the board, I mean, it wasn't only me, everybody on this board had concerns about the ethics violation and whatnot. I thought it was executive session, apparently it wasn't, you're right, Nicole wasn't there, so, so even with that, we don't have any grounds for any ethical thing, but it seems as if you have an interest in this. I don't know, I can't figure out what it is. You say you don't have an interest in this, but for you to send this to their attorney and these folks, and I mean, and to tell them, hey, if we do this, I think you should litigate, basically. I mean, I think it's absurd. So, I mean, that's just it's my opinion, and I think you need to know that. And I don't think that you're representing the constituents of this township.
Why? Because I'm pro the rehab center and you're against it, so you want to violate my First Amendment rights yet again?
Because you strongly urge the planning department
But Carol, this is more than that conversation.
Let me finish. To rethink its position on the matter to avert almost certain litigation and its potential costs. And furthermore, you state in here that we didn't, I do not remember or know of Tusten engaging any land use attorney or advisor to Tusten about the legality of the impacts of substantial changes in the impact of every individual and business in Tusten. When we did the zoning rewrite, the exact same firm, Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna, was hired. Mark Sweeney was the attorney from that firm that went over the zoning. Our town attorney went over the zoning as well as Mark Sweeney. He was
Do you
the
have
land
any,
use
do you have
attorney
any
then.
invoices from them?
Sure we do.
Okay. And what do we spend, what kind of money do we spend with them?
I couldn't tell you that right now.
Excuse me.
But that's not even the case here.
Well, Carol,
The
since
point
I've been
is-
on this board for 2 years now, I have not seen any bills paid to any law firm for any planning issues in this town.
Right, and the zoning issues came before the board prior to your being on the board. It was
Right, but we're
during
doing
Tex
the zoning
Harris's
rewrite
term.
now also. We're doing the zoning rewrite, we don't have anybody hired, to my
Yeah, we
knowledge.
don't right now, no, we don't. Correct.
The only time that Mr. Sweeney was hired was once the public hearings were done. I think there were two. And
To review it.
and to review it, because everything had already been accomplished as far as the two public hearings, and then it had to go before it went to the Department of State, that it went to Mr. Sweeney to take a look at the finalized version. So we've already used an attorney, and that was in 2011 when Peg Harrison was the
Tony,
supervisor.
this
at
is
the
a letter
time.
I wrote, and understand what I said, to my knowledge, okay? So the bottom line is, I think the town's putting itself in a very precarious position by hiring this firm out of Albany, not a Sullivan County planning attorney, which there's dozens of. Actually, Marv Newberg, I talked to him the other day, and he's fantastic at it. Anyway, so I don't agree with the town hiring that attorney. I think it's biased, I think it's discriminatory, and I think the
Because
town's
what
gonna get
reason?
jammed up.
What
Because-
reason?
Because you're expecting the Butos to pay for an attorney to drive from Albany, back and forth from Albany for every planning board meeting whenever they're required, instead of a local attorney, a planning board, somebody that's locally that we could use to advise us.
They may
Why
not
would we
even
do that?
have to attend the meetings. A lot of this can be done via email and whatnot and
Carol,
fax.
I'm not here, I'm
So,
not a
that's
judge. I'm telling you what my feelings are, and I don't wanna see this town get jammed up.
I think, let me just make a point. I think the reason why, I think there was 4 members of the board that approved that was because
Approved
of-
what? Approved what, Tony?
Approved hiring the attorney at White Osterman, Mr. Everett, because we looked at his resume. He has given talks to the New York Association of Towns. He is versed in land use planning. I think I had said that if I broke my leg, I would not go to a cardiologist. I would go to a specialist. This man is a specialist in municipal law and land use planning. You can go to his website, White Osterman. His name is David Everett. His list of articles, books, briefs, what he has represented in that specialized area is without peer. So the town of Tusten owes it to the town and to everybody that's here to get the best doctor, attorney that we can. I don't think that distance plays a part of it. You're making it sound that, oh, because he happens to be in Albany, and the supervisor just said he might not have to be there. We're trying to get the best specialist that we can. And I
Tony,
think
this
Mr. Everett will.
is a concern. This statement is a concern, and it's well-founded and well-funded and is substantial. And I don't know, we don't know yet if they're gonna have to travel back and forth to Albany. But if they do,
well, we'll see where it goes.
that's right, it's gonna be a huge expense.
What-
And you've got local attorneys, that I've hired that are very good land use attorneys.
My other question is, I mean, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Why would you copy Rick Lander, Bob Lander, and Joan Budo in that reply email when if it's sensitive information that should go to the town board and to the planning board chairman, why would you basically include them as well?
You see that flag right there?
I do.
You see that flag? That's why. That's my right. That's my right.
So you're saying that any sensitive or, when we go into an executive session, we close the door. And we close the door on all these people here. Do you know why we do that?
Tony, you're not taking me to school. It was not in session. Your point is mute. You guys wanted to move against me with a conflict, or excuse me, a code of ethics violation. A code of ethics violation, which is substantial, because I wrote a letter. Because I spoke my piece and I exercised my right to it as a First Amendment, and I can advise and share with anybody that information because it's not critical.
And those
it's
charges
not,
are
it's
not
not,
being
excuse
made.
me, it's not a private conversation. It was a conversation in an open meeting. So that's my right. And if you have a problem with it, and apparently you do because you wanted to hit me with a code of ethics violation, I think you're putting the town again on versus Ned Lang in a very precarious position again.
Let me ask you a question. If
We didn't bring the code of ethics violation.
Right.
We didn't bring the charges because it's unsubstantiated, so I mean, I looked into it, the board asked me to look into it, it was up for discussion tonight.
So
That was it.
everybody on the board that writes a letter or does something that you don't like, then you're gonna have a
No,
board
I think
discussion
that-
about a code of ethics
No.
violation?
No.
Is that
It's
the new
the-
policy in this town?
May I speak?
Go ahead, John.
I know, I was just finishing.
I think that the objection personally that I have to this is not that you voiced your opinion,
Right.
but in the first paragraph, I think it is, you state that I have some real concerns as a town board member.
Right.
Therefore, you are giving the impression that as a town board member, you're representing the town with this opinion, and that is not right.
Doesn't say
What
that.
you
Doesn't
it
say
says
that.
that.
It doesn't say that, Jan. It says what I am in my capacity. And I didn't say the town
You
board.
should say in that if
Well,
you
Jane, this
want
is
to
again,
give
this is
an
America.
individual-
And this is a freedom of speech issue. And I will say what I want to say.
You gave that right up once you got elected. You're a town board member. You can't speak
Oh,
that way.
I
You
don't
have
have-
to speak as an individual, not as a town
Oh,
board
really?
member.
I don't see that in our constitution there, Jane.
You raised your hand and gave an oath.
Yes, I did, but I don't see that in our constitution.
Okay. That's my objection.
So I had those two objections.
The only
My-
problem I had with it
the-
was the dissemination.
We
to
have a
the
lawyer
opposing-
right here. What do we say, Mr.
Excuse me,
Clementi?
Bernie,
Norm-
Norm speaking,
I
hold
don't know why I
on.
bothered Bernie.
Go ahead, Norm.
The dissemination to their opposing counsel and stuff, that's where I had a problem with it. I think it was gonna be internal, it should be kept internal.
It wasn't my purpose to keep internal.
Okay. Then you're wrong.
Right, and I mean, that
It
was
wasn't-
my entire point, is just, it seems like the way it reads, maybe this wasn't in your intent, I don't know, but only you know that, but the way this reads is you excluded the town's attorney, for God knows what reason.
Because I don't
but-
believe in them, that's why.
and included the people who, if they buy what you wrote here, if they buy your line, that they would litigate. So you're basically saying, if we hire this attorney, as a board member, as Jane said in the beginning of this, I, as a town board member, think that you, Joan Budo, have the right to litigate against the town.
I would tell her that. I would tell her
You
that. I would tell
represent
anybody.
the town of Tusten, Ned.
Carol, I'm telling you, this is America. I can tell and speak and say what I want.
Yes, you can, but
Because
why in
you're
God's
wrong.
name would you take that
Because you're
oath of
wrong.
office?
Because you're wrong.
No, I'm not wrong.
The town is wrong. What Ed Jackson is doing wrong. And what
No,
you-
it is
and
not
hiring
wrong.
this
I called
attorney-
it- no, excuse
Hiring
me.
this attorney in Albany is wrong.
And before we did it, I called the Association of Towns Attorney and asked them that very question. Is it a problem if we hired somebody from Albany versus somebody locally in Sullivan County? She said, absolutely not. The planning board, the town board, the ZBA has the authority and the right to hire whomever they choose.
No, I'm not debating
Period.
that. I think it's wrong to hire them and not hire a local attorney and save costs all around. That's my point.
Well-
And that is my standing.
You know, and my opinion again, it just seems to, it seems to me that the rules, laws, just the rules of the land, the local laws, zoning laws, I don't know, God knows, state and federal laws, they just don't apply to Ned Land.
really?
They apply to
Really?
everybody else
Carol
except
Wingert-
for you.
Carol Wingert actually sold a piece of property
please.
to the town and violated the code of ethics. Carol Wingert sold a property,
stop
actually
it already.
signed the check. Signed the check. Went
And
into
that's
your
already
account.
being
That is-
discussed.
now
Well,
you
it's
are
going to
being
the Attorney General
disrespectful.
and the Comptroller, and we'll find out.
Good.
Time to move on.
Okay, public comment.
Back to the agenda.
Yes.
Public comment. Tony first. You're next.
Thank you. First of all, I have one question. When you made that motion about the matter in terms of the lawyer, was the matter about filing an amicus brief, or was it a matter about becoming a co-signer as a litigant? Was it what? Because it wasn't clear, that motion. If you read the motion back.
It was to find out. It was to ask him if the town has. Does the town have legally recognizable claim?
right?
Just to get a second opinion.
I don't think that's what, I don't think Tony was asking that. We were just saying, we support you. Correct, Tom?
Tony wasn't asking that, but that was.
No, but that, you were talking about an amicus brief, correct?
I brought that up, and I thought I went into detail as far as why there was improprieties about not selling the 14 acres and having it available to the
No, I
general
get
public.
that. So what is the town asking the attorney? Can we be part of that as an amicus brief, or can we be part of that as a litigant? What are we asking them?
No.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. Now, just something that the board needs to know, and some of you all need to know. 31 days ago, Norsu did not exist. It does now. And the town has rallied around this group. It has sent out over 300 letters to the comptroller, a couple hundred letters to the state superintendent of education, and raised money, and has a great steering committee. People need to understand we're not going away. We are continuing. We will support the Widens. We will support whatever legal action they do. We will attend school board meetings. We will do what we have to do. We are in the forefront of this, and we think we're dragging you guys along with us. And we hope we can count on you. It's very important that we know that the four of you support us, because we know you don't, Ed, and it's understandable. By the way, sending that to the Buddhists is reprehensible. Well, whatever, you know. You can go to a theater and yell fire. That's an American right, but do you? Fine. Okay, fine. I know. But the point of it is we hope that the board will support us in what we're doing, because quite frankly, the board is the biggest beneficiary if that school becomes a social center as opposed to a prison. And the bottom line right now is that we're at a critical moment here. We're at a very critical moment, and we need the board to be at the same pace as we are. You know, we're ahead of you guys. I've never, in all my years in volunteerism and public service, ever seen a committee come together so fast and do so much. There are people here like Catherine Michelle and Des and Iris and wherever who have just worked endlessly to get us this far. We need you guys to catch up to us. We really do. And we're counting on you to do that. Okay? Thanks.
So as Tony just said, we are Norsu, but what really Norsu means is that it's Narrowsburg organized for responsible school usage. And the acronym Norsu is just a catch, because we really are organized. We believe that there were multiple irregularities and improprieties by the Sullivan West School District in the sale of the Narrowsburg School building. Because of that, one of the things that Norsu is doing is that we have commissioned a master city planner. That report is in the process of being printed. We will provide you, the town board, we will provide the planning board, we will provide the zoning board copies, bound copies of that report as soon as it becomes available, which is as soon as it gets finished in the printing phases. We will also be meeting with state agencies with direct or indirect interest in the disposition of the school building. We believe strongly in what is right and what is fair. We believe strongly that there were really serious improprieties. We are not going to sit back and become, as someone had said, some hayseeds somewhere. We believe in what we are doing, and what we know is that what we are doing is the right thing. And we look forward to being able to present that particular report. It is a master city planner that has done this. It has input, and it is something that will be very useful for you to go forward, for the zoning board to have, if they need it, for the planning board. And that is what we are giving to you. We commissioned it, you will get it.
in consultation with my man Kevin here, back to the jitney concept. If it has any legs, the idea of dragging a jitney up from Manhattan probably is not viable. But we might want to consider something that meets the train at Port Jervis and recreates the old whistle stop up the river. That would be a local venture involving local transportation. Might have a possibility of working. I don't think dragging something from Manhattan all the way up here economically viable.
Because we thought of that, we did think of that, but the reason that we went forward with the Manhattan idea is because people that take the train tend not to want to go to Port Jervis, they tend to want to get out at Middletown. So, and then you'd have to go to Middletown and drive over, because it's an extra, I don't know, you guys who drive the train, use the train, it's like 20, 25 minutes sometimes from Middletown to Port Jervis, and then you have the 45 minutes up. It doesn't make sense. We also thought that if it emanates from Manhattan, people can go straight from work, get on one bus, and you're there, and it's over, and it's just better.
You're going to have to fight your way with every one of the Chinatown buses who are now occupy every open space in Manhattan. You're just going to get lost in Manhattan.
2.5 hour run.
Yeah,
It's longer than
It's a long run.
Are you saying no as well?
Many years ago, a long time ago, wasn't there like a service called Howard Mountain up here? And basically they would take people to Kennedy or LaGuardia or to Manhattan.
Yes, yeah.
And that's exactly what we're talking, right? It was a
Yes.
jitney, it was a private, like a taxi service, right? Pardon?
There's a guy in California that does
But it was like a limo service, Tony,
Right.
just so you know.
Right, wasn't it a van? It was
He
like
did have
tunnel
vans.
line.
He
It
did
was
have
like an
vans.
tunnel line, and you would.
Ed has something to say.
Nora, you're thinking the same on the same way as Mike? You're thinking it's not gonna work?
Oh, no, I think it's an excellent idea.
I think it's gonna work.
I mean, I think it's a great idea to do
we
a
went
jitney.
We went to a meeting for Sullivan County, and they did surveys, and they were asking people what they would like, and that was one of the things that came up. Transportation initiative, yeah, and the quickest way to get here, that's what they want, and the transferring thing didn't come in play with a lot of the people they questioned. So we're going with Jane's, a lot of information Jane has is from the Sullivan County, who's
The Visitors
the Visitors Association meeting we went to.
Places.
But frankly, the heyday of the corridor, when all the boarding houses were up and running and everything was happening, that was all train driven. That was that corridor up the train tracks,
I
and
know,
that,
but
and that
our
took a long
thought was
time.
that now you don't even have to own that car in Manhattan just to get up to your vacation home. You can leave your car up here, and you don't have to garage it. You don't have to drive it.
No one has to pick you up at the bus station?
Well, that has been brought up, but we thought that there might be some entrepreneurs out there which is not a very good. Anyway, it's a feasibility. It's just to try it. I mean, I'm hoping that it will be used.
I support the idea in general, but I think the old train stops give you the natural location points for people to get on, get
We only
off.
thought of 4, which is Lumberland, Highland, Narrowsburg, and Calico. That's 4 stops. Right. And I don't even know what these bus companies are going to come up with for a round trip ticket. It's $60 round trip to Manhattan from Monticello right now.
On an awful bus that starts up in Ithaca and is jammed.
Yeah,
By the time it gets to Monticello, it's not a seat.
Right, I mean, I don't know, Mike, it just might flop. We might not be able to do it because of money. I don't know.
It's a good idea, Jane.
It's a feasibility, that's all.
On a much smaller scale, I don't know if anybody's dined over in Cayuga Lake lately, but the Chamber of Commerce has a jitney over there now
Oh, they do?
that runs you out to park your car and brings you back to the restaurant, which we will need when all this no parking goes in down here on the corner. So we should think about a jitney to ferry people from maybe the parking lot down here, or I don't know where you're gonna put the people when you have to park.
ZBAA did that for Riverfest. I haven't heard
That
of
brings
one.
up that subject.
Of the parking signs?
The parking, yes, I think, with the constables forcing the people to stay off the bridge, the street, and the rest of it, make them go down and use the shuttles back and forth when they have events. especially since the bridge is closed.
Yeah, oh, using our constables for it?
Yeah, making them use the ground, park in the field, and be shuttled up.
Yeah.
It's no longer viable that people can park wherever they want, the way we are right now with the traffic situation.
So you,
But you have to be careful, Norm, because you're really only doing away with a few parking spots, like the Riverfest.
But keeping them off of Bridge Street so traffic can flow and get to the bridge and everything
No, I'm
else.
with that, keeping it that, I
That's
agree with that.
what I'm talking about.
But if you ask like Pig Mountain and stuff like that, Riverfest too, to start paying for a jitney back and forth, it just adds another.
Well, they're gonna have to, because we can't afford to keep locking up the streets the way they have been the last few times.
Riverfest did have that,
They have
right?
the two buses around,
And they have to make.
but nobody parked them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
just
this
see
year I
posted.
think they did. Last year they didn't because the sign wasn't, no?
There was very few cars on there, James.
They
Yeah,
parked,
I
they parked
didn't
on the
look.
side going down the Morrow Lane all the way down instead of down.
Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna have to look, I'm gonna have to look into
He said the only problem was they
what
didn't cut the
we
grass.
can and can't authorize them to do, and
Okay.
if we have a no parking ordinance
That's
and
my thoughts,
whatnot.
we're gonna have to do something.
Alright, so we'll work on that for the future, but it won't happen this time. So, but yeah, we can use them, I know, for certain things, but it would depend on, we'd have to have a parking ordinance and whatnot in place, so. Kathy?
Well, this is a little bit different. This is a little lesson on American government. Okay, it kind of bothers me to hear people going back and forth of, what you can and can't do. All right, we do have a constitution in the United States which sets aside the executive, judicial, and legislative branches. The state of New York has one too. And in the legislative branch, which is what you guys are, you can have dissension amongst yourselves. And ultimately, when there is a vote, and a vote and a decision's made, say it's 2-3, and once the decision's made, under the constitutions, both the state and the federal one, the U.S. Constitution, that board is a body. The board is a functional body. And even if you voted 3-2, the whole board now is obligated by law to uphold the decision of the majority. So you lose your ability to make comment negative to anything that was in that decision. You lose it. That was most of the Constitution, if you read the Constitution, 90% of it is spelling out the structure of the government, and there have been dozens and dozens of amendments as the country evolved, but most of it involves the structure of the government. I mean, I did find, can I have one more minute? Okay, I found something, when we had the public hearings for I'm trying to figure out where Ned's coming from with his thoughts on some of these things. So we had the public hearings for the zoning law when we adopted it, and on September 26, 2011, about a month before, 2 months before we adopted it, Mr. Lang's comments started, Mr. Lang spoke, "Good evening, I guess everybody knows me pretty well. Did you receive the comprehensive plan review that I sent you today, Peg?" And he had apparently sent a letter. Supervisor Harrison said just at 5 o'clock, and an unidentified speaker said, "Can you identify yourself?" So Mr. Lang continues, "Ned Lang, running for town council, hooray." Listen, I think when you look at this new zoning, you have to go back to the comprehensive plan and look at the basis for which the zoning, this new zoning, proposed zoning, comes from. And when I go back and I look at the basis of the comprehensive plan, my intent is that this town remains sustainable, its economy viable. When I go back and review the comprehensive plan, I find those parts of it missing. The planners and the committee of the comprehensive plan did a wonderful job. Their hearts and mind are in it, and I commend them. Not condemn, commend. But the one thing that's missing is the stakeholders of this town. The business people, the business people. There are 5 stakeholders, which I've outlined in my review, Peg, and I want you to review, pass that around. If you look, and as any planner would tell you, that the residential component of a township, they cost more than the commercial people do. So a commercial entity is a boon to the local tax base, and a residential unit is basically a cost to the local tax base and the schools, the county, and even the state. And it goes on. So I just thought I'd let you know that possibly, Ned is very focused on business, and the rest of us are just the losers. So.
Non-stakeholders.
Wait, I want to add one thing that the audience might not know, okay? Mr. Lang and I were colleagues at the time in 2011 on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I was the chair. Mr. Lang was a member of the board. And one thing to Mr. Lang's credit, okay, that he sent a letter of resignation at the end of 2011 because I think it's a 5-year term. He was at the end of his 4-year term. And he sent a letter to, at the time, Supervisor Harrison and also to myself as chair, saying that he would resign at the end of 2011 his term as ZBA because, and the rationale, correct me if I'm wrong, that you did not believe in the zoning, okay? And, we got the letter. But the thing is that he resigned from the ZBA, didn't fulfill his term at the end of 2011 after a different board here adopted the zoning which you have today. Not anybody who was on the board except for, at the time, Councilman Wingert was on the board. But Mr. Lang basically said at the time, I don't believe in the zoning, so here I'm going to tender my resignation, and sent that to the supervisor, who at the time was Peg Harrison, and then also myself as chair. So you see, that is his right, because he was not an elected official at the time. He was appointed as a board member, and that's his right. If he doesn't believe in something like that, he can resign any time. The difference, I think, that somebody had brought up tonight was, you now are an elected official. You took an oath to serve the public. And that's the difference, that basically when Kathy is talking about the majority, whether you like it or not at this point, your job now is to not to debate the zoning, because you now are an elected official. You now are a town councilman here, and it's basically
Your oath was to uphold.
That's
zoning.
exactly. Your job is to uphold as an elected official. You were here to serve the public, not yourself.
Well, the bottom line is that, in America, we all have rights and we all have responsibilities. We have individual rights, which is the most important thing. Now, even though I don't agree with the town zoning, I got elected and I ran because I want to change things and I want to change the zoning. So at the end of the day, what the law says, of course. I mean, we have to uphold it. In the meantime, I have my own agendas, and I'm very vocal and very forward about my agendas, and very honest about my agendas. And if I find something that is compelling to me and the rest of the board doesn't like it, well, that's my ability, that's my that's my constitution, if you will, to follow what I believe is right. And just because you people don't understand or don't agree or don't whatever you want to say about the rehabilitation facility, I believe in it. And so, when other public officials believe in something like Mr. Como with the SAFE Act, and how many of us in this room hate that whole program, he promoted his agenda because he thought that agenda was right. So, but what the board did, I think, tonight, even putting this issue on the agenda where it's a code of ethics violations for me speaking about what I believe in and what I think and how I conduct my affairs and who I notify with my freedom of information, freedom of speech, is wrong. And the board did a disservice to this town by even bringing that up and making it an issue when they don't agree with something that somebody on the board has to say or do. And it's compelling to me that when certain individuals are in a public sense are on the righteous part, and they don't get questioned, they don't get brought up for code of ethics violations, even though they violate the code of ethics. But me on the other side, you want to enforce a code of ethics violation, which is has no standing, basically. So the bottom line is that you know where I stand, you know who I am. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe as much in my freedom of speech as I do in yours, and I would fight to my death to uphold yours as much as I would mine, whether I agree with you or not.
I'm going to make one comment here. The code of ethics violation was not about the content. It wasn't about what you said about your freedom of speech. It was about whether you divulged confidential material from executive session. And further looking into it, there was no basis for that. So, and then as stated tonight, we weren't formally in executive session anyway, so there's totally no basis. So that was the basis for it, and there was no basis.
Carol,
so
let me say this.
It's
The
done.
question was asked, when I was consulted, what was my opinion? Well, what I'm hearing tonight is that Mr. Lang has decided that he has an absolute freedom to speak, but the board doesn't. If the board discusses if he made an ethical lapse, they're wrong. They can't discuss Mr. Lang because they don't have the First Amendment rights that he has to discuss whatever he wants to discuss. So the mere discussion offends his rights. The discussion happened to be that they were not charging him with a violation. But that to him is an offense to the First Amendment. I find that absurd.
Well,
His letter was absurd.
I find your
His
comment
letter,
absurd.
his letter from a town official being highly partisan, and the letter was laced with misstatements. Misstatements of law, misstatements of fact. But as Mr. Lang said tonight, he is often wrong and he is often loud about it. And he was elected because he was often wrong and often loud. And my opinion was, he has the right to be wrong. Because what he did could not be proven to be illegal because we didn't know if he actually divulged. So because of the ambiguity, he has the right to be publicly loud and publicly wrong. But it's you folks who elected him.
And Mr. Clementi, more to the point, talking about being wrong, the last 2 lawsuits that this town brought against me, you lost because
Nonsense.
Mr. Clementi,
You are talking
Mr. Clementi lost
lies
both of those
and nonsense
lawsuits.
again.
You had,
Nonsense.
excuse me. Mr. Clementi had a choice to
He
talk
won
and I
nothing.
didn't. So, and Mr. Clementi, as usual, is wrong.
Nonsense.
Wrong.
Thank you. Public comment, we're gonna finish up, Bernie, and then Tony, and then this lady here, and Iris. one
We're
more
back
time.
to the field. 14 acres given to the people that purportedly are going to buy the school. Take that off the purchase price of the school, even if it's $80,000 or $140,000, they're way over the bid that the Widens put in, way over. Or under, I should say, under.
The issue with that bid is in court. It's being litigated.
I know, but I'm expressing my theory about it as a person that has lived in this town for 50 years, paid an awful lot of school taxes, like a lot of other people have. If I added them up, it would be probably about the same cost as that school, if not more. So why couldn't they see that? We're giving you 14 acres. We're giving it to you. So she could turn around and sell it, and that's how much less she paid for the school. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. I mean, that is wrong. R-O-N-G or W-R-O-N-G. Narrowsburg Central. No. This is why I just cannot see the 14. This is the crux of the whole matter, period.
Thank you, Bernie. Tony? Real quick.
One of the things that I find most disturbing about the letter that Ned sent is that he potentially put the town in jeopardy. So when the Budos start to litigate, they'll say, well, the board, because you said you're a board member, the board thinks we should be paid. Because you, by inference, you are representing the board by saying, as a board member. You could say, as a private citizen, who's often wrong, as a private citizen, my feeling is this: your board membership is separate, and it should have been kept. Wait, Ned, quit the smug stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't look good on you. But the point is that what you've done is you've put the town in jeopardy. Because now Mrs. Buddha is going to say to her attorney, well, geez, the board thinks we should sue them. Who are you to do that to us? We are the ones who are going to pay for it. And you will too at the next election. But we're the ones who are going to pay for it. And I find what you've done is beyond logic.
Tony, you only have another 3.5 years of me.
You know what, Ned? Not if there's a God.
How about impeachment?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have a question for the town council, which is, I don't know what kind of oath you take in terms of serving once you're elected and what your obligations are, but it might be useful for just to be that to be clarified, because it seems to me, I assume one of the things is obviously that you're there to serve the general public of this town. Partisan actions seem to me that really go against that, and to me, that would be an ethics violation. But then again, I don't know what your code of conduct is.
Right. Or suing?
The last meeting, I think Ned mentioned he was gonna go to changes. I don't know if you want to give us a report on what you saw in Florida.
I know, that's, actually just got back from a week and a half in Sturgis, so in September, it looks like I'll be gone.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, 1 second, I'm just sorry. May we have your name, please?
Yes, Naomi Holland.
Naomi. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Richard Marcel. I just wanted to kind of readdress, I know you passed a motion to defer to your legal counsel about the amicus brief. I would just like you to rethink and encourage you to work with your attorney to really focus on doing that. An amicus brief does not put you as part of, as a litigant in for any of the claims. It simply is a statement of fact, as Tony was saying, that it's a statement that says that you support or you have facts that support a claim in the petition. It's a rather innocuous thing. However, it would be very important, since the committee is very intense in supporting the community here, that you all join this with an amicus brief, at least for those things that are factual in terms of that you can state facts on regarding certain of the claims. It's very important, I think, that you now take a stand and say, look, yeah, there are some claims here that the facts do merit us joining in and informing the court that that is the case. Because in the long run, if this goes to litigation, then you're going to be in depositions and discovery anyway, and all the information is going to come out anyway. So you might as well take the opportunity at this point to say, look, we do support this litigation, or at least certain claims in the litigation, which we know are fact. So
I think you should take into consideration the fact that the town has certain responsibilities under the law to administer the laws equally and legally pursuant to what the applicable laws are. If the town takes a legal position in favor of one side or the other at this early stage, you're creating a very compelling argument that the town, whatever the decision they make, and if they make it against these litigants, that the town was biased because it said from the inception that it was taking a position against them before the applications were even filed. You're diminishing the town's position by what you're actually accomplishing is the opposite of your point. The town cannot afford to become a partisan in an issue that it's going to be the judge. And that's just bad government. We're not here at a popularity contest. We have to follow the mandates. We have to know who we are. And as a town, we should not jump in before anything is established, before any applications are formally in, and say that we are on one side or the other. That's an untenable position for a town to take.
And the hour is late, but I just want to, I understand what Jeffrey is saying, but I'm going to reiterate what I said. This is not one against the others. This is not, well, my point is, this wasn't Budo versus Wyden here. Why I am annoyed with the school district. Not Mr. Wyden, not Ms. Budo, has nothing to do at all. It is basically the Sullivan West District. That is my bone of contention. Not Mr. Wyden, not Ms. Budo. It's with how this transaction occurred.
But it's not the town who should be taking on the school district.
But there is no, I have to disagree, in that there is no issue here with factual, supporting facts that are already in existence. And there are certain claims here on this petition that are clearly factual. And that's all that the amicus brief would be doing, would be supporting.
There are many that aren't.
Then you don't address those.
Okay, we're not going to get into a debate between the public and the attorney. Thank you. Susan?
I just have, I'd like to thank Norsu very much as a resident of Narrowsburg, not as an appointed person or anything but myself, a person who pays taxes here. I think that they're doing an incredible job, and it's probably exactly the folks who should be doing it. And if you want to give out your website or something, I don't know if everybody here in this room is connected to them, but we all should be. We should be connected to them by computer. We should be sending them money. We should be doing everything that we can do to support them, because this is where this has to come from. The town is is, it's got parameters where it can't go.
You're right.
And-
And that's what people should do. When
Yeah.
people feel strongly about something, they should, proceed to have political, huh?
May I say what the website is and give that information after you speak?
Sure.
Sure, I don't, it's not illegal.
Real quick, go ahead.
Write it down, write it down.
All right, our website is www.narrowsburgschoolnorsu, in capital letters, .net. That is our website. We have a Gmail address, which is narrowsburgschool.norsu@gmail.com. On the 24th of August, we are doing a fundraiser. It is Sunday brunch on the lake from 11 to 2 p.m. And if anyone wants to talk to me about it, or any of us, please do.
What lake? Iris, what lake?
Lake Huntington.
Fundraiser for the church.
Okay, we're gonna
Lake
close public
Huntington.
comment.
It's Tony's on the lake.
All right, let's move on.
Consent agenda, adopt items number 23 through 26. I didn't put the minutes on here because we got them late, so we'll do that next one. The John Kaufman, the planning board, just take note, and everybody in the public, please take note that the October monthly meeting, we're gonna move to the first Tuesday of the month. I have a conflict, Jane has a
No,
conflict.
November I have the conflict.
Oh, November.
November
Okay.
is Veterans Day. October, I don't know what the holiday.
Oh,
It's Columbus Day.
There's
Yeah,
okay, well,
November
we'll
I
work
have
on
the-
November next time, then, remind me.
So what is
Um,
the date?
The date will be, to the first Tuesday of the month is October 7th.
Carol, just so you know, Columbus Day is October 13th, which is a Monday.
It's a Monday. Yeah, I won't be here anyway. We have a long event, and I thought that Jane had, so
No, I have it. So when is
if
meeting? I'm
nobody's
sorry.
objected, moving it to the
Veterans
first
Day is on a
Tuesday.
Well,
Veterans
this is
Day's on
October,
Tuesday
Columbus
as well?
Day.
Okay,
November 11th is on
gotcha,
Tuesday.
okay. Okay, so, motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Just let me ask, does anybody know John Kaufman?
Yes.
Okay, who is John Kaufman?
He is a bus driver, first student. He also works at Narrowsburg Motors, I think. He's been restoring the antique.
And he wants to
Up
serve
there.
you.
Ed
Tell me
Ed
about
knows
him.
him.
He's come to 3 or 4 meetings already, and he just to observe, and he told me at the last meeting he would like to come to the board.
Is he replacing Barry?
No,
No. This is why is he coming on the
because we
board?
have an opening.
Who's the opening from?
I have to go back and look at the list again, huh? I forget these places.
I really try.
No, Jane,
Mary Schuler went to James. Then you had an alternative because,
Barry.
you had an alternative open because Lisa Down became a member. I
disagree, but we don't have to.
I think you only have a clerk.
I forget which one he went into.
I don't remember.
Oh, he took Michael's place.
Oh, okay.
Michael Uri.
John Kaufman did?
John Coughlin took Michael Uri's place.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so motion to move the consent agenda.
I'll make it.
Second, I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Board comment? Ned?
Good meeting, man. That was good.
Tony?
No, thank you for listening. That's it.
I have just two things I'd like to say. If anybody would like to make a private donation to the deck fund to support the town in its quest for funding for the deck, we'd graciously accept. And Ned, you said that you're behind the drug rehab facility and whatnot, and you didn't think the rest of them, there may be other board members that are not. From myself personally, I'm not object to a drug rehab in this township.
None of us do.
That's me personally, as a board member speaking, I'm not object to the drug rehab coming into the town. We need to follow the law, and whatever the law states, that's where we're gonna come out on this, whether our zoning allows it or not. So, I just don't want there to be confusion among board members, or any board member of any of our committees or anything, that if you're behind it or not behind it, that's not the issue. The issue is where the zoning falls. So, that's my comment.
Well, no, that is the issue. You can either be pro or con.
That's my comment. Jane?
I think as a board, we have to learn to make these meetings shorter.
Ah, amen.
Here, 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 here.
There's too much freedom of speech going on here.
Norman?
Simply enough, go along with what Jane says. Also, I believe on you said on the rehab, I'm completely neutral. If the Budos make the qualifications to make it, they have a right to gamble their money and they have a right to lose.
Yep,
Or win.
exactly.
The law, we're pledged to uphold the law and that's it.
Okay,
I'll make
one
the
last
motion
public
to-
comment, really quick. Nobody?
Nobody?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.